Good evening, infidels. Today I saw the pretty famous by now film Citizen Vigilante, I believe it's called, by Uwe Boll, starring Armie Hammer, I believe. And I'm a bit of two minds. I've thought about the film a fair bit. I don't normally watch films, but this one made quite a splash and I was curious about it, so I did watch it. It's fairly short, it's like an hour and a half. And what I wanted to see is I wanted to go and look at internet people who would critique the film. And I was curious, so let's go ahead. And I wanted to hear the opinion of somebody who strongly opposed. And I think it was this idiot called Stutter something. I don't remember, it doesn't matter. Stutter shot, stutter camera, I don't know. Something stuttering, and that's the noggin that ain't jogging. But it says Citizen Vigilante is the most pathetic movie of 2026. In fact, if I remember right, he will conclude his analysis with that this is the worst film he's ever watched, which is a tall order. I mean, there's Bad Taste by Peter Jackson. That's pretty bad. So anyway, though in a fun kind of way. So, right. This is a long video. It's like 40 minutes. And this young man says so much wrong or stupid stuff that I have no idea how long this video is going to be. I don't care. It's going to stay as long as it needs to be. 2 disclaimers. Number 1, he is going to swear a lot. Nothing I can do about that, because he's a crass little worm. Number 2, this is going to be one of the hardest challenges of trying not to swear on my part. Okay? He is insufferable. So, with these 2 disclaimers put forward, with these 2 trigger warnings, if you will, off you go, genius.
Wait, what? You may have seen Armie Hammer in some podcast appearances and media interviews. You may have even seen his recent Hollywood Reporter profile. They write about his cancellation like it was this silly misunderstanding that he has accepted responsibility for, whilst still denying he had any part in doing so. Wait, what?
Okay, so we start with a beautiful, I cut a little bit at the beginning, but we start with a beautiful, completely unnecessary ad hominem attack on the lead actor. Okay.
Make it sound like it was just this silly misunderstanding and he's gonna make a comeback soon. You know, it wasn't that big of a deal, and besides, he had some very tough years after that, and he learned
I talk a lot, but this guy's bad.
Who hopefully doesn't eat other people. Cancel culture, not real. And I see this as part of a comeback strategy, because after 5 years of no offers, he's suddenly popping up in a lot of independent films, let's call them. He was in Frontier Crucible, a movie released in December of 2025, which I have not seen because it's a Western and I don't hate myself that much. But I want to talk about his most recent film, Citizen Vigilante.
There you go, well done.
Guys. The gritty tale of an American landlord and management business owner who takes matters into his own hands when the judicial system fails the citizens of Europe. This movie was...
I wanna say a thing before he continues, because I'm so distracted by it. Have you ever played a video game, a classic LucasArts video game called Full Throttle? There is a scene, and I'm gonna butcher this a little bit because I don't remember it. It's been a long while I've played the game. That says, do you know what would fit nicely on that nose? And then the protagonist grabs the barman by the nose ring and slams him on the table and goes, "A bar." You look ridiculous, son.
It was written, produced, and directed by Uwe Boll.
No, Uwe. He's German. Uwe. Okay? Uwe. That's how... I'm not German, but I'm putting a little bit of effort in. I'm sure as a lefty retard like you are really conscious of all the other cultures. Right? So it's Uwe. Schwarzenegger. That. Okay? Arnold. Anyway, it's Uwe.
A German filmmaker who really defies the laws of bad movies. Because see, with The Room, we could laugh at how bad the performances were.
Nice to see you, Danny. I'm going to take a nap.
Can I go upstairs too?
And with Neil Breen, we could join in on the hate for technology. Damn government spying us. Yeah, you take that stupid computer. But Citizen Vigilante is like if...
So now we go to a ad hominem attack of the director. Not bad.
Facebook post from your racist, unemployed uncle who thinks that stop the boats will make his rent go down.
Let's pause for a moment. Okay, so he's saying, basically he's trying to paint a picture. This is important. He's trying to paint a picture that the film is geared, it is made by and geared towards racists. Okay? This is important because this young little man contradicts himself a fair bit while making fun of others for doing so too. It really gets the almonds spinning, this kid.
Like, stop typing, you fucking asshole. If you're
There we go.
unfamiliar with Uwe Boll, he is known for making some of the worst movies ever made, and then challenging his critics to boxing matches if they wrote negatively about his work. So, like, he might actually challenge me to a fight after this video, which I don't think he will, because I think he's past his prime of fighting people.
No, it's because you're irrelevant. But that's okay. Good guess.
If he does,
Also, I think if anything fought you, it would kill you.
how gaggy would it be if I actually got into physical violence over a review? I'm down. I'm down.
You're definitely down. Syndrome.
Let's fucking do it. Those boxing matches actually happened. They were documented in a documentary called The Raging Bull, which I have been desperately trying to find, but, you know, that's a battle for another day.
To be honest, that's kind of cool. Didn't even know.
Because today is Citizen Vigilante Day, which was not its original name. It was supposedly called The Dark Knight until they got sent a cease and desist from Warner Brothers, and they had to change it to Citizen Vigilante because he is a citizen who's a vigilante. And even that's not true. So, wow. Guys, this might be the...
Okay, let's take a break here. This is actually quite important, I think. The fact that he wanted to call that film that particular name, I don't think is irrelevant. One thing this young kid does not spot is the film does quite a lot of, not so much cameos, but homages to other films. V for Vendetta is definitely there in the film, and Fight Club is definitely in the film as well. I am not a film buff, but I bet you there's more. So there's a reason. I suspect there are reasons. I mean, I don't mean to be, the critic that pretends to know more than what the director wanted you to see, but it is my opinion that at least one scene in the film, the scene of a car, which he'll describe you later, is identical to a scene that happens in Fight Club. And the scene instead of the couch that is displayed at the end of the film, that looks to me like V for Vendetta very much. So... yeah, this is important because this kid will misunderstand the film heavily.
Worst movie that I've ever seen, and we have covered The Room on this channel. Ben and Arthur, hell, we reviewed Cats. Guys, I can confirm this is worse than the CGI cat of James Corden in Cats. Cat me the fuck out of here. The movie was so bad, Germany refused to give it an age certification, which meant it couldn't be distributed, which is kind of an effective ban.
Yes. Well done for lying and semi-non-lying. Let's see what you say
Effectively.
Huh?
An effective ban. And when challenged...
Yes, an effective ban. Very much the film, in case you didn't notice, is deeply against injustice. And this is yet another one of those examples in which a government entity that is supposed to protect the people ends up actually using its powers in a completely oblique way in order to achieve a completely oblique, and in this case, sinister result. It's the equivalent of burning a book. They banned this film diagonally by not giving it a rating. Okay, the film, in terms of aesthetic and content, resembles, in my opinion, very much the sort of semi-splattery films by Tarantino. So there's quite a lot of special effects and gore and some sex in it and that sort of stuff. So it's definitely a mature film. That's really the only rating it needs. It's very obvious. Give it 18 plus or whatever, or M for mature. I don't know what it is in the various countries in Europe because it changes. But, and you're done. But no, they didn't do that so that the film can't be distributed. It's the equivalent of, I don't know, you make a car, you want to sell it, and you pass all of the tests, you spend all of the money, and then the government says like, we're not going to accept your paperwork, so you can't sell it. The car's made, it's done, everything. No. So yeah. It's gorgeous. It's an effective ban, yes. And this is what the film is against, in very, very large part. This is the first thing that goes right over your head. A bit like your hairline.
They said they're not going to change their minds because this movie incited violence against migrants. But that was just a cover story, guys. The real reason is this.
The movie, however, does show violence against all sorts of other people, including non-migrants. Might that be an expedient and a lie? We will never know.
Movie is really fucking terrible. Like, beyond imagination, really. The
Is
movie's
it as good as your cat's joke from before? I don't know. Let's see.
so terrible, it doesn't have a plot. And a movie without a plot is nothing but an Oscar contender if the performances are right. But consider...
Okay, so this is an interesting point, I think, because this was, to some degree, a point of contention that I also had with the film. The film is not that it doesn't have a plot, but it is a film that has a number of points, and it's trying to deliver those points. And it has a very garbled timeline. And this is deliberate. It's obviously an artistic choice. It's a bit like watching, I don't know, 3 Iron by Kim Ki-duk. I mean, who will know this? Probably no one, but whatever. Right? So I do liken it to Asian films, of which I know a fair bit. I mean, by now I'm very dated, but still. Where you can see that the plot is not very linear. It's not that conventionally linear like typical Western films would be, based on my relatively limited experience. So it's quite difficult to follow. The film does change scenes constantly, and it changes the timeline and it changes the location. Okay? Very, very unexpectedly. So it's hard to tell which of the events happened before the other. Now, it being confusing does not mean that there is no plot, so to speak. Though I do understand what he's saying, because essentially it's taking some example crimes and then turning them into, and then giving them a vigilante-like solution. And then it's turning all of this into a pseudo-plot. It does feel somewhat cobbled together. I don't think that's a negative. It's just, that's how it is.
Most of the scenes look like the first take they ever took of each scene. I don't think Oscars are in the future of this film. In fact, I don't think any awards are in the future. I don't even think this is good enough for Razzies, but because Armie Hammer is in this, I have hope that this could sweep the Razzies. The writing, though, wow.
Okay, so I do not know anything about anything of what is just said, the awards or whatever. The only award that matters is the moolah. Do you get paid or not? My understanding is the film is doing fairly well. My understanding is also it's got a very, very low budget. I've read at least 2 figures. I've read 3 figures. I've read $750,000. That's one figure in cost of production. I have read $1 million and I have read $2 million. And these are both estimates. I verified this via AI. Also, that's what it spits out. But it looks like the information is missing. So I don't really know. In terms of how much it's grossed, my understanding, the figure that I've read so far is 600,000. Now, bear in mind, this film doesn't have the marketing campaign that any other film that would be comparable. I don't know. But if you go on IMDb and look, for example, in how hot this film is versus there's at the moment another film that's, let's say, relevant in the zeitgeist, which is Supergirl, I think, or something like whatever. And that one is currently the 2nd hottest film, but Citizen Vigilante is the 5th hottest film on the list of IMDb. And if you look at their ratings, Supergirl has 6.1 average with 30,000 reviews, and Citizen Vigilante is 22,000 reviews, if I recall correctly, at time of this recording, and 6.5 average rating, so still quite low. Now but higher than the other one. Now the other one has a public budget of $170 million. Okay, so that is a catastrophe. I do not know if Uwe's film is actually going to make back the money, but it might make back the money, which, you know, would be a pleasant change in affairs in cinematography as of late from what I understand. Hollywood seems to be dead set on nuclearizing itself. Okay? So far, my friend, I think you are not mentioning, on purpose, the fact that this film was really made on a shoestring budget. And I'm sure it was because I recognized the places it was shot in. I have never personally been to Zagreb, but I can read some Serbo-Croatian. Ooh, the Croatians are going to get mad because I said Serbo in front of it. Sorry, that dates me a little bit. Okay, I'm from the ex-Yugoslavia, so relax. That's what we used to call it, right? But yeah, and I could read the things that were on the buildings. All right, this is going to become relevant and important later. The point is, when you read the cast at the end, okay, most of the actors are from there. Okay, the only American actor I think is Ami with an M. I apologize. Then there's an Italian actress. There's a French actor. There's an Australian actor, and then the rest are all Croatians, or most of them anyway. Like, this means that Uwe must have gone there and gone like, hey, we're shooting this film, we need these many actors, these many women, these many men, that sort of thing. So, but that was done, it's really low key. It's, in my opinion, a pretty impressive film for being so low key. But he doesn't mention it is so low key, does he? This little twerp over here.
Also sucks. Beyond understanding, which I've been trying to understand, half of the scenes play out like
Do you even English?
improv. Problem is all of the actors are non-English speakers originally, except for Armie Hammer. So the improv sounds a little bit like this.
Mom can help me.
I'll help you to hurry up a bit. Okay, I go back. I have a delivery.
I'll watch the bar.
Yes.
Stop!
No, okay, no, please, no, don't
She said šta, which means what? At least I think that's what she said.
do that. No, please, I'm begging you.
It's just bad. Armie Hammer even said in his interview in this Hollywood Reporter profile that they did on him that he received the script and it was 50 pages long. And that's not long enough for a movie script. And when he asked the director where was the rest, his answer was, we're just gonna go there and start filming and have fun. And I hope they did, because no one watching this will. Because you...
Okay. There's also other interviews, I've looked at a few, in which Armie really praises Ball for his style, his haphazard style of filming. He's jumping into situations with both feet. Okay? So there's that. Secondly, quite a lot of people have indeed liked the film. So you're a bit wrong.
think that a movie banned in Germany, made by a German filmmaker...
Ah, see, you lying piece of scum. Try not to swear. You would think that a film banned in Germany, it's not banned. It's been effectively banned by not receiving a rating. What we call this, son, is censored. Through a very unjust system. That's because there's activists on that board. Okay? People should be able to see and watch whatever the heck they want. You, me, and everybody else. As an American, I'm sure you agree.
Or no less. It'd be this very dangerous piece of media, most likely criticizing Israel. If there were any objectives of mobilizing a base of support against migrants, this movie is not going to do that. Because he couldn't even make this a believable enough movie to make us hate anyone other than the people making this film. It plays out like the vague...
I love it how you just rope me into your fantasy of what I think or don't think. I don't agree with you, son. Number one. Number two, one thing that you don't seem to understand is this film is very much a bit of an arty-farty film. Okay? Have you ever seen a Beckett play? You haven't, because you're 12 and you don't have a brain. But basically there's a lot of symbolism in the film. Okay? And that's because points are trying to be made through the film in this artistic expression. For example, it's got lots of almost funny scenes, silly scenes. There's a whole SWAT team rushing a certain room that is set up in such a way that they're essentially all walking into the line of fire and all being killed. I'm reasonably confident nobody would ever agree to do that. Okay? Or, for example, it doesn't say explicitly that we are in Croatia. You would need to know if you read Laško, which is referred to Laško pivo, which is a Slovenian beer. Okay? you wouldn't know that if you're not from there. Okay? But it doesn't mention that. It talks about Europe. It uses English as a lingua franca. Okay? So that everybody's part of this problem. It's cross-cultural. Okay? There's symbolism in this. That's why one of the reasons it's not believable.
Big ominous remarks of anonymous accounts that just say shit to stir shit up. There was this report that showed
The hell of an argument.
that people's perception of London and safety in London was much worse than the actual reality of the situation. It's when you get
I have heard this argument so bloody much. It's absolutely unbelievable. If you travel a bit, son, and go places, you might discover that there are some places that feel really bloody unsafe. Okay? I haven't gone to many. Why? Because I am practicing something called white flight. I deliberately avoid places that are dangerous. But sometimes I don't know which places are going to be dangerous, which places are not going to be dangerous, and I suddenly find myself in places that are dangerous. When you're a tourist, for example, you can incur in that quite a lot. Have you ever seen a YouTube channel called Kurt Kaz? Or have you ever seen a YouTube channel called Tyler Oliveira? Because they go to public places and catch pickpockets and all sorts of stuff. And it gets quite dangerous. To be fair, they do look for the trouble. That's very much part of their format. But there is trouble to be found in very many places. Like, for example, Vancouver. You wouldn't think of Vancouver as a dangerous area, right? Until you go to the east side. And then every 5 meters that you walk, you get approached by some junkie wanted to give you a stolen iPod. That also dates me a bit, doesn't it? For $20 so he can go and shoot up. Right. Feels quite unsafe. Whether you like or don't like my perception is not interesting to me, my friend. Or enemy, probably.
when you base reports off of testimonies of people that don't even live in the city. Anytime you speak to Londoners,
like you mean?
Say exactly the opposite of what that anonymous account with an AI profile pic of a woman with a lion's mane and the American and Israeli flag with patriot in bio say daily on their accounts. Fox News then uses that tweet of someone who has never been to the country to paint a picture of a dangerous invasion. You know,
thank goodness somebody who has never been to any of these countries. I'm sure you go to Rijeka on a daily basis, or maybe Pula. Do you visit Pula? Pula's nice. It's nice in the time of summer. You should try. Or as we used to call it, Pola. Right? Or Zagreb. No, you didn't go to Zagreb, you didn't, right? But you're about to comment quite a lot about this because you know so damn much, don't you?
The migrant invasion that is threatening the white population of the great nation of Europe, which is kind of funny when you think about the real invasion is actually the US trying to invade Europe with their fucking tech companies and capitalist models that destroy people's lives. So
the US is invading Europe with a capitalist model. So Volkswagen is an American company, is it? How do you help these people? I don't know. Like, you do know, son, you do know that Europe is a tiny bit older than the US. Tiny bit. We've been around a little bit longer. In fact, your stupid face looks like it's of European origin. You look like Southern European, like Spanish or Portuguese. That's what you look to me. Explains the intelligence.
Like making more people miserable so that fewer people can be even richer. Fuck yeah. The movie plays out.
Oh, you understand so much. It's unbelievable.
Like a really bad YouTube skit, terrible parody. You'd think that this was made by Shane Dawson, trying to cozy up to right-wingers. But why don't I go through the plot so you can really understand the moral panic caused by anonymous bot accounts on X? Because, see, this may have been written and directed
by anonymous bot accounts on X. Or how about 250,000 cases in the United Kingdom? How about that? Or Köln? Do you remember Köln? You don't? Do you remember the vans driving on the side of the roads Allahu Akbar and everything like that. You don't remember that? Oh, you don't remember. There's two reasons why you don't remember. Number one, you're American and therefore retarded in the world of geography. Sorry, Americans, I really love you people, but you guys don't understand a damn anything about geography. If anyone were to ask you what's the capital of France, you are going to say Ulaanbaatar, and it is what it is. Or Europe is going to be your answer. You know nothing. So you know nothing because you don't know anything because you're American. But on top of it, I forgot what I was going to say. But I'm sure you're going to give me lots of great inspiration. So there's no reason to dilly-dally. Don't worry about it. I need to interrupt you every 4 seconds.
By a German filmmaker, but plays out like it was written by a racist unemployed American pensioner who never set foot outside of his hometown, population 500, but somehow believes that London has been overrun by Islamist extremists because the TV has been stuck on Fox News for 30 years. And if that sounds like the idea of a good time, why don't you go ahead and subscribe down below if you haven't already, and get yourself a snack, a drink, sit back, and boy oh boy strap in, because
rather than subscribing to you, I think I'd rather gently shave my testicles on a parmigiana di melanzane, okay? I don't think that's going to happen. But you have just accused a German man shooting with a bunch of European actors, okay? For example, the music composer sounds Italian too, but specifically from my town. Because I can read the last names. That they are trying to pander to the Fox News crowd? Like, are you listening to yourself? Are you actually listening to yourself? The stupidity of your statement is catastrophic. Like, you're projecting your own read of the world onto others and then accusing them of doing it. Or, of engaging in this read. And whatever. What? I don't think Uwe cares to any degree about what Fox News says. At all. In fact, the parody of the world news, the sort of shtick that is in the film, which you will lampoon later, is in fact a representation of all media, son. I know. It's difficult to understand things.
Today's serious business. Just try and enjoy the car crash. Someone has to, hopefully. We start with a quote. All behavior can be traced back to instincts. When justice is denied, instincts turn to violence. Starting off...
It says vengeance. Lamau, I can't even read. Agreed. That's quite funny. At least you acknowledged that. It must be the nose ring. It's reducing your IQ by 8 points.
With a banger by renowned author Anonymous. And the movie opens in the...
Oh. Don't we all enjoy an appeal to authority? So if it said Albert Einstein there, it would have been okay? Or would you have said something negative about Israel? What if it said Jack Nicholson? Suddenly fine? Or Jack Nicholson is bad because he's a Laker fan or something? Listen. The fact that you have certain biases is great. But the fact that you pretend that you don't have them is pathetic. Okay?
A very specific location of Europe. That's it. That's all the information we're given. The entire film, it's Europe. Not only do they...
That's correct. It's talking about various problems that occur... Nice. I can't even speak Lamau. That occur on the European continent, essentially, in various countries. There's a million prohibited words that I can't use right now, from all of the assaults, particularly against females in Germany, Italy, France, the United Kingdom, fraud everywhere. There is quite a lot indeed. Okay, in fact, the film covers fraud. That would be the people that dodge paying rent, for example. That's fraud. Well, theft, actually, pretty directly at that point. So, yes, the setting is Europe in general. It's not because Uwe is too retarded that he doesn't know the difference between East and West Germany. In fact, Uwe has probably lived through East and West Germany. I mean, he's much older than me, so I think he's gone through the 70s. I'm not sure, to be honest. But, you know, that you as an American microcephalus, you do not understand, okay, that us European people are used to hanging out with other European people massively. It's incredibly common for people in the northern bits of Portugal, okay, to speak French. Now, I shall inform you on something. Portugal and France are not neighbors. However, the little head of Spain that is right on top of Portugal, okay, is so short that you can travel across it in a couple of hours, you see. So you can get to France easily in a day worth of travel. Whereas if you travel across your country, either up or down or left or right, it can take 3-4 days, easy, by car, okay? Europe is very different. The French needs to constantly deal with Italians. That's why in Piedmont, or Piemonte as we call it, loads of people speak French. The dialogue in Piedmont sounds very similar to French. It contains French words. That's right. Or how about the Basque territories in Spain? Very, very different, completely different language as well. Italy, with all of her dialects. Croatia, in particular, complicated. Very, very complicated. But you know nothing, because you do not know about D'Annunzio. You do not know about the Vittoria Mutilata. You do not know anything. So kindly, spare us all your American read of what Uwe decided to do. If he has decided to generalize Europe, it's not because he's one of you, ignorant fools. Once again, I do apologize to all Americans that get upset because I'm accusing you. I am. I'm accusing most Europeans the way Jeremy Clarkson would do. Excuse me, most Americans the way Jeremy Clarkson would do. Okay? But I really like your liberty. I really like your kind, and I really like your inventions. I really like your music. I really like your ideas. And I don't generalize about you like many Europeans do generalize about you, though there is some irony considering what I'm doing right now. The problem is fools like this kid, okay, he's young. He knows nothing. Let me bring somebody else in the conversation, like, for example, Nick Fuentes, right? He's a young lad, intelligent lad, all sorts of stuff. The moment in which he starts talking about Europe, he makes my ears bleed in some situations because he does not know things. And that's fine. Okay? It's just that you don't get to say, at least if you're intelligent, I don't think you do, that a European man who expresses an opinion about his own continent is so incompetent that he is like the people you dislike in your own country. The level of stupidity necessary to express oneself in this way is baffling, frankly. This is unworthy of any human being.
Ever name the country we're in, they go to great lengths to not name the country we're
Correct.
in. It's just Europe, which, as we all know, it's a monolith. Everyone has the same culture, the same laws, the same traditions, same architecture throughout. You land anywhere in Europe, it's all going to look like this. Hell, they all speak the same language. English with a European accent. Which European accent?
English with a European accent. That's not a thing. But okay. They speak English, my friend, because they're using it as lingua franca. Would you like to know a funny thing? In the European Union, which is an awful Uber government that is doing exactly what it is that you're suggesting is not possible, which is trying to homogenize Europe desperately, which is a task that, in my personal opinion, is essentially impossible, but they are succeeding to some extent. The English language, somewhat ironically, is being used as a language of common communication between the people. Would you like to know what country is not part of the European Union? A country that speaks English. So that's quite funny. That's how powerful the American capitalism that you so dislike has been and has successfully managed to make people in other countries communicate with one another. The film is in English. Let me give you another example. I'm sure you're very knowledgeable about this since you're a film buff. I don't know if you've ever heard of Bud Spencer and Terence Hill. Any Italian in the audience right now is about to lose their knickers in joy. Okay, these are comedic films with two Italian actors. Okay, but I call them Bud Spencer and Terence Hill. Very English-sounding names. Those are stage names. I can't remember now their original names. I do apologize, but one of the two is Italian from Naples, the fat guy, and the other one is of Italian origin but was raised in Germany and I think in America. But so his Italian is very dodgy. Now the films have almost all Italian actors, almost all of their films, and it's a massive amount of films. Okay, I don't even know the titles in English because I know the titles in Italian because I watched them in Italian. The thing is, they're all dubbed into Italian because the originals are dubbed into English. So they all sound wonky and weird, like the spaghetti western films. Right? It's simply a tool to use the language that is the most common. But I've already seen, for example, the film is available in Russian, and it's dubbed in Russian. I don't know what your point is, son. They have a shoestring budget. They got very basic voice acting. And it's not to sound European. That's not the point, you absolute buck. They would have hired people that sounded English if they had the bloody money to do it. In fact, you're going to make fun of this later because the lady that reads the news, she's desperately attempting to sound British according to your interpretation. It's just that Uwe doesn't really focus on these details, and he doesn't have the money to do it either. Blimey, will I be able to get through this video before Christmas? I don't know.
Accent, you ask? Bold of you to assume it's just the one consistent accent throughout. Everyone gets their own variation. They couldn't even situate this story in a specific country because it's not about the country. It's about the vibes. And the vibes are like white supremacy, the white nationalist vibe.
Absolutely. Oh, you're so stupid. No. No. It's not about the vibes. It's about a problem that affects most of us. Okay? That affects this entire geographical area. All of the nations. And I'll tell you more, it's happened before. Have you heard of the Reconquista in Portugal? Pretty big deal. 400 years of fighting to push the bloody Muslims away. It's happened before, my friend. It's happening again. It's happening very differently, but it's happening again. But unfortunately, because you're 12 and American, and the only thing you know is, I don't know how Naomi Klein came to prominence, it's difficult for you to understand any of this. Okay? Europeans have a common history. It's very, very long. Have you heard of the Habsburg? No. Okay. World War One? No. Okay. We've done a lot of things together as Europeans, you know?
Europe was a country. And the opening scene is just a mother and her son grocery shopping as we hear bossa nova style music play in the background. And this whole thing has to have been improvised.
What about chocolate?
Okay, you can have it.
We get an excruciatingly detailed look into their checkout process. Fucking hell, this is terrible. She even yanks her son back on the way out of the grocery store just to make this a more realistic interaction? Question mark?
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And speaking of bad improv to kill runtime, one thing about this movie, there is a lot of burning footage. And what I mean by burning footage is just fluff.
I don't 100% disagree with him. I think there's a fair bit of fluff in the film if one wants to read it this way. It depends on how you interpret it. Because at that point, if you watch, let's quote another Kinky Dog film. Or no, let's go with Takeshi Kitano. He's very famous. You probably know him too. Of Zatoichi fame and Battle Royale. Okay, he made a film called Dolls. Alright? Dolls is damn near a silent film. It's a film about a man and a woman tethered together by a rope, a red rope. They don't say anything. They just walk around and do things. Silently. I know you're American, and unless there's an explosion every 4 seconds, the film is bad, okay? But you see, there are people that are different. I know you know this, or you pretend to know this, but people are different. And it's not because they have their stupid bull rings on their face. No. It's because they are actually different and think differently. In this particular case, the scene that you're describing, what it's doing is it's setting a mundane stage. And I bet you as well that they chose places with graffiti on purpose to indicate an undercurrent of decay and collapse and poverty and failure in a small little corner mini market, which is something that you as an American probably have never seen. You may have seen a dépanneur in Montreal once when you went to visit, I don't know. But this is very common in Europe, you see. There's these tiny little supermarket things that are, near your home or that sort of thing. Yeah, it's different. Anyway, so it's setting the stage. Or it's giving you some silence to try and drive home a point. I do tentatively agree with you. I think there's quite a lot of these scenes. However, you see, I just watched the film. It didn't bother me. Because unlike you, as Samuel Beckett would put it in Waiting for Godot, I'm not a critic. I just watched the film, mate. That's what I did. Whereas you set out to try and prove to yourself how much you hated it. And congratulations, you succeeded. It's very impressive. I don't understand why this is a problem.
For now, the mom and son are walking down the street and there's a horrific attack. A man produces a knife and stabs the woman and runs off. And it's both really jarring and violent, but also so badly done and badly acted that it's hard to take seriously. And it cuts
Really? Because it looks bloody identical to what happened to Irina Zarutska. And there we have the real footage. What is done a bit silly, in my opinion, is the effect. He went with this sort of Tarantino style, quite a lot of blood, quite a lot of gore. In a sense, I agree with the kid here. I think it's a bit overdone. But the scene, I don't know, Uwe, but blimey, that is probably... Because it's happened multiple times. It's a black guy with a knife stabbing the neck. Unprovoked, for no reason. It's very similar. The parallels are there, mate. Okay.
Breaking news from the channel World News. And the news is reporting that the nation...
Okay, you absolute idiot. World News is used to mean the media. It's an allegory. That's what it is. Okay? I mean, the arrogance and the sufficiency of the stupid is a cancer. It's unsolvable. Because if somebody's IQ is 90, you cannot, for the life of you, get them to be 100 and something. It's just not going to be possible. Okay? It's an allegory. Symbol. Bloody hell. Well, it had to say Fox News. Is that what he had to say? I don't understand. They've got a budget of like $50 on the freaking special effect. It's probably done in Unity. I don't know.
Is gripped by fear as a wave of shock sweeps the country. Which nation, we'll never know, but my best guess, Europe. The news reporter sounds really breathy and like she's really trying to do a British accent. And they're reporting that a woman has been killed by another suspected undocumented migrant. But in a twist that has captured the imagination of the public,
hope doesn't rest in the hands of government officials or law enforcement.
Instead, it lies with an enigmatic figure.
The vigilante citizen is delivering a brand of justice that some believe the authorities have failed to provide.
They then take to the streets to ask people what they think of this shadowy figure that has done unspecified actions that have granted him this reputation. And it cuts to a woman giving an interview saying that he is a real hero. And then she says, we work, we pay taxes. And for what? To help all of Africa. I mean, if we're going to talk about Europe like it's one place, right, we might as well talk about Africa like it's another one place.
Oh, I see. I'm sure that from the height of your knowledge, you know the difference between the Republic of the Congo, Somalia, and South Africa, don't you? Or how about Rhodesia? Pardon, Zimbabwe. Or Madagascar. I'm sure you know the difference between all of them. They're all so successful. I mean, literally, if you go to Pretoria right now, you will see, the beautiful decolonization catastrophe that's happening there with water shortages and electrical rationing. Look somewhere else. Don't look over there. Right? I'm sure that if you go to Cairo, Egypt, as a white tourist and you get kidnapped, that will be very, very sad. Very, very, very sad. Have you heard about Somali pirates? Those exist too. Okay? Obviously, Africa is a tapestry of places. That's not like... why do you insist on being so stupid? Here's how it works. The nation is a generic term to mean all of the people to whom this sort of stuff is happening, that the government is not protecting, while the government ought to have that as its only mandate. Okay, and the people from this country, from these countries, okay, pay a stupid amount of tax to their government, way more than you do as an American. Okay, though you're trying to be as socialist as possible because you're all mentally retarded, thanks to people like you, most likely. So what's happening is that they're going, I'm losing 60 to 70% of everything I ever earn, and my money isn't producing any safety for me, but I know it's producing foreign aid. Whether that foreign aid goes to Africa, Syria, or the Uyghurs doesn't matter to me. That's what's breeding nationalism. Okay? Your stupidity is breeding nationalism. It's not Uwe doing it. You're doing it. Okay? This is what's happening. And that's what that is describing.
Turns out people all over Europe, wherever they may be from, are all praising this man. They're seeing in him the answer to all the crime that the police is not dealing with. And now even people outside of Europe are posting in support of this anonymous man. This American woman says that he's exactly what the US needs because he's taking out the trash. Yes, the US, where people can buy guns like it's chewing gum at the store, really need this vigilante, a man walking around dressed in black.
Absolutely. In the US, where people can buy guns like it's in the... what did you say? In the candy store, eh? Yeah, I'm sure in California it works exactly that way. Because the US, as you see, it's just a big conglomerate. You know, it's all the damn same. Tennessee, Montana, Nebraska, Alaska, Hawaii. They're all the same, really. They're all the same. Governed by exactly the same laws. They don't have state. These are not states. The point is generalized on purpose. And you, in one breath, degeneralize one, and in the other breath, generalize another one, simply because it suits your interpretation of things. Not very bright.
Looking constipated. And my favorite facet of
He looks
this film
constipated,
is
does
the
it?
editing. Because when you film without a plan, it's up to the editors to fix the bullshit. There's a lot of shaky camera movements, different angles and shots to give this a gritty feel and also make you feel sick. The color grading is ugly as sin. Jesus Christ, look at that room. That neon green. As we'll come to learn, the name of this vigilante is Sam.
These are just opinions, but okay.
And he is an American citizen who owns a landlord and management company. Notice I say American citizen and not Europe citizen. His mom died when he was...
You stupid idiot, you don't know anything. I am a European citizen. Because of the EU. If I have the Italian citizenship, I can go work in France tomorrow. The same way as if you were born in South Carolina, you can go and work in Oregon. It's the same thing. Europe is attempting to become a federal conglomerate because of the European Union. So, the term European citizen is in fact sensible. Just the same way as American citizen is.
Young, and his dad shipped him off to boarding school because he didn't want anything to do with him, and that kind of explains his personality. He's very full of himself.
That doesn't explain his personality. What that explains is the ruthlessness of his past. and personal pain. That's what it explains. It's got very little time to do this, but it sets the stage a little bit. I think this is another messaging by Uwe. Children are being alienated from their parents, by their parents.
Self has a very like grandeur savior air to him. Does that make sense? He talks about himself like he's this righteous hero delivering a brand of justice that no one else dares to. He's the only one who has the courage to do it. He says it several times. Remember, I do this until you learn how to do this yourself. A statement that if you take seriously, I'll have to assume you're brain dead, which is also not...
Hey, why will you have to assume I'm brain dead if I take it seriously? He bloody told me that. And he acts in a way that's congruous with that. I will agree with you that the main character is a megalomaniac. But in the same way as every type of protagonist in such a film archetype is. Neo is a megalomaniac. The guy from V for Vendetta, V, is a megalomaniac. In fact, right here, these bits are so a parallel with V for Vendetta, 100%. That isn't even a question. The messaging that he does, where he masks his voice, masks his look, and essentially tries to empower the people, is literally the same film, in a sense. There. That's done 100% on purpose, for sure.
An impossibility. So like, wow, we really found ourselves in a conundrum, huh? And Sanders says this in his manifesto, which he records in this, again, disgusting room. He says, your country isn't doing anything for you, but he never specifies which country. So we're...
All of them, you moron. You slow man. All of them. All of them. All of them. Do you understand? Because there are some countries that have done things a little bit differently, like Hungary, for example, or Poland. Poland, which is now experiencing a resurgence of its own emigrants returning. Because Poland is nice and you can have Christmas markets without having to have freaking bodyguards everywhere.
Just gonna have to assume he's talking about the great nation of white Europeans. If you think about it, this...
As opposed to what other color, champion? Huh? What other color is there in Europe? I'm listening. Yeah? What other color is there in Europe? I'll help you. None. Okay? Because you insist on essentially pretending that white is every single shade of anything that isn't Brazilian. Okay? But yeah, all Europeans are white. That's who we are. I don't know how to tell you. That's how it's always been. Or are you going to argue some ridiculous stuff that we was Kangs was here before, yeah? In the Louvre, just sitting there.
Movie was made specifically to appeal to Americans because it's got a zero basis in reality. Like, no facts were used in the making of the inspiration of what originated this story. He read through...
I don't know where to go with this. So the film has been made to appeal to Americans because it has no basis in reality, lol. What do you mean it has no basis in reality? It's essentially an allegorized documentary. These problems are occurring. This violence is happening. The film casts a protagonist that uses violence to resolve, to punish the violent people, which you will notice is of multiple colors, including whites in the film. It's incredible. Because I'm pretty sure that Uwe has one very big problem, which isn't necessarily that there's migrants of various colors under the United Colors of Benetton flag. Okay? That's not Uwe's problem. Uwe's problem is that crimes go unpunished. And Tommy Robinson has the same problem, and Rupert Lowe has the same problem. And La Meloncina probably has the same problem, though she's too busy like redesigning freaking car seats for children and adding speed cameras all over the place. Because my taxes go towards speed cameras. And I'd much prefer that my taxes and the effort in the Ukraine, I would much prefer that my taxes went into ammunition for the firing squad that's necessary to take down all of the grapists. Is that difficult for you to get the little almonds spinning? Yeah. This film is not meant for Americans. It's meant for everybody. It's a global film. In fact, it's a global success. At least as far as I understand. Wasn't it like topping downloads on Amazon or something? I don't know. I don't care about these sorts of things. But my understanding is it's doing fairly well. Okay? When you consider the disparity in budget, I mean, this has, what? 0.5% of the budget of the Supergirl film. And it's kicking Supergirl's bum.
Threats posted by dumb Americans who've never left the country, and he thought, I'm going to make a movie based on this, and they're going to eat it up. This is
Americans who never left the country.
going to be my comeback onto the global stage of filmmaking. And then the only person that watched this was me. And the movie plays...
What? How can you possibly argue this? I mean, I don't know how old this video is. Maybe it's a bit old, etc. That is so listen, even if it's a little bit old, like say 5 to 10 days, mate, it's aged like your stupid nose ring. It's aging like your forehead. Okay? Better graft those hair on top of your forehead, mate, because I think we can start landing planes on it.
Out like the
Dude, I just did a hymn, didn't I? Sorry.
Movie doesn't know what it wants to show you next. Like, it's unsure. So it starts killing time in the most random sequences. There's one specific montage where he's...
It's random, guys. It's random. He knows this. You understand? The director, just a fool. All of the actors, all stupid. The editors, everybody's retarded. It's just this guy. It's a genius. It's a genius. Just...
working out, and I kid you not, I counted, okay? I watched 35 seconds of footage. 35 seconds. And there's this shot of him like doing this exercise with the bar, and he does it twice. I want you to write down below in the comments right now how many times you think they repeat this quick shot in the time span of 35 seconds. Go, lock in your answer. Okay, all done. They show this shot 15 times. 15 fucking times in 35 seconds, mind you. Like, and when they're not
Jesus, that's a lot of wasted time, 35 seconds. Why, pray tell, do you think they did it? Let's see if we can have an answer for that.
showing this shot of him doing this, they're showing shots of him doing that. And they show that 5 or 6 times as well. All intercut with these 3 big dudes arriving at an unspecified location because they are there to collect money that someone owes them. Who owes them money? We don't know. What do they owe them money for? We will never find out. But these 3 men walk...
because it's not relevant.
...into a room and it's all dark and they're ambushed by the vigilante who shoots them dead. And not a single bullet hit the doors or the walls, as we can see by the pristine condition they were left in. And...
oh, I really like it when you know nothing. Do you know what kind of rounds he was firing? I mean, you're American, you know everything about guns, like all Americans, right? I mean, it's cheap as easy as going to the candy store to buy guns, so I'm sure you have about 9 of them. Yeah, what if he was shooting hollow points? What if he's perfectly accurate? I don't know, man. What if the budget of the film is so low that, you know, they didn't account for ambient destruction and they just chucked a little bit of tomato juice on top of the dough? I don't know. Why are you focusing on these petty things? Now, let's return to the bit that you were really upset about this scene over here. He's right. It's interspersed with other scenes that are relevant to this particular deal happening where these 3 men are going to get ambushed coming out of a Mercedes. I think that they are probably mafia men of some sort, so criminals of some sort. And they look Middle Easterners, sort of like Pakistani, that sort of thing. So the scenes of him working out are supposed to indicate preparation. In fact, there's 2 types of preparation scenes. The green filter I think, by the way, indicates a very specific timeline, a bit like in The Matrix. When you watch The Matrix and there's a green filter for when they're in The Matrix, and then a less saturated filter for when they are on the mothership or whatever it's called, right? So I think that's a decision. It's a decision you disapprove of, I understand. It's a decision you disapprove of, the decision of him working out in the same way several times, but that's the thing. In order for you to prepare yourself, you need to be rigorous with training, repetitive training. This never passed your mind, right? And once again, even if it was done to save a buck, because they don't have the money, you're making an elitist argument. I want to see different scenes all the time, shell out the money.
World News then gets a statement from Interpol Regional Chief Henry, who is leading the initiative to apprehend this vigilante. Interpol Regional Chief, what the fuck does that even mean?
I'll tell you what that means, okay? Do you know what Interpol stands for? It's not difficult. National Police. Dude, imagine if I'm wrong. I don't actually know, I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure it's that. Okay? Interpol. It's an entity that essentially operates cross borders when the borders still mattered, and so on and so forth. I know nothing about this sort of stuff, so I'm not going to pretend to be some sort of genius, but it's absolutely totally normal that Interpol would be led or represented by somebody that comes from a completely different country than the one in which whatever operation is being conducted is conducted. There's nothing weird about this.
So he was in Saw, the movies. Remember him? In real life,
It's an actor, who cares?
he's Australian.
So?
In this,
I am here to support local and federal law enforcement.
unspecified European person with his very unique accent that no one else in the movie has. But his statement is even funnier. I'm going to have to read it verbatim.
It's actually a pretty decent Slavic accent. I would need to hear it again, but yeah.
Investigation is leading to the possibility of an international terror cell that is against democracy. And it is not impossible that this terror group is a movement supported by Russian and or Chinese government institutions that are not only active online, but already active on the ground, fighting our countries in the EU and the USA. So much to go through. First, I'm surprised he didn't say Russian and or Chinese and or Iranian, because that's like the trifecta of USA enemies. But also, why?
Yes, but what you don't seem to understand, my friend, is that sort of hilariously stupid propaganda that is being fed by that individual to the media to then report mirrors what's being done in the world right now. Which is why you yourself are bringing up, why didn't they mention Iran? It would have been brilliant because it would have been the trifecta of rubbish that's being told to the media to be propagated to the people. Well done. You've played yourself. You've literally agreed with your own self without realizing. That's pretty special. The film is lampooning, in a pretty grim fashion, mind you, the real world. Because when a horrible tragedy of some sort happens or there's a problem of some sort, the first thing that the government entities of any sort, whether they be Interpol or anything else, need to do when addressing the media is to desperately try and reduce in their narrative panic by effectively lying to people, by not telling them anything. Generic Russia, China, Iran. Yes. That's what every government does, son. That's not weird. What's weird is that you think that the film is stupid for doing it, while every government in the world does it on a daily basis. You're not so woke for being woke. You're kind of sleepy.
Why are we saying EU and not Europe anymore?
Because EU is a different concept from Europe. Europe is the continent, generally understood as being a very, very large landmass with a cornucopia of cultures, all of them, I'm afraid, white. which I know you don't like so much. The EU is an awful pseudo-government that nobody elects at the top of the thing that it is imposing its will on all of the individual countries, because it's pretending that it's a federal conglomerate of states, which it isn't. The EU is the political entity. It stands for European Union. This one I'm fairly confident about. But unfortunately, because you're American and you do not know how an atlas works, you don't know any of this.
Which country am I supposed to be following, right? I mean, this really is American and British propaganda delivered through a German filmmaker, and it's all
Wow. It's American and British, British specifically, okay? It's not Scottish. It's American and British propaganda delivered through a German. And this man is theorizing this, and no part of him ever goes like, I wonder if my theory is a bit dim. No. No, this is not just the theory, guys. This is the theory, and it's also a fact. He himself agrees with himself that the theory is a little bit silly. It's just that he thinks it's real. So who's silly now, champion?
Delivered to an audience of me, myself, and I, because who the hell else is gonna watch this shit?
Everybody, you moron.
The fact that they even set this film in Europe just goes to show that it's cheaper
What do you mean in Europe? It's set in Croatia, in Zagreb. You should have been pretty specific.
filming a movie in Croatia than in the US. They were after one Vigilante, but now they're talking
Wait,
about it like
what did you just say?
The fact that they even set this film in Europe just goes to show that it's cheaper filming a movie in Croatia than in the US. They were
Yes, by a long shot. Also, they wanted to do a film about Europe, not about the US. What the flip is this thing about the US that you keep bringing up? You're inventing a narrative that isn't there. I bet you anything that Uwe couldn't care less about America at all. Whenever he mentions America, he's just saying, by the way, lots of Americans also think this because they have similar problems. Which is accurate. I mean, you bloody elected Trump twice. And the first time you did it to build the wall to keep the immigrants out. I'm trying to make your cogs spin. It's difficult, there's a lot of rust.
after one Vigilante, but now they're talking about it like it's a terror cell of international influence. Because
who is they? It's the government that's giving this information to the people.
Everyone in
Have you watched films before?
this film is fighting terrorism if you don't think about it for too long or even at all. And
No, the government is pretending to fight terrorism when it's instead tasked with stopping the Vigilante, who is in fact attempting to stop terrorism of a completely different kind, called an invasion. We've seen them before in Europe. You are seeing one now in America and you're still trying to figure out how to deal with it. And you haven't.
initiative to capture this one vigilante who, for all intents and purposes, has yet to do anything. His manifesto has not come out. He hasn't committed any crimes. But the initiative to apprehend him is a massive military armada full of armed soldiers with a shit ton of guns. And at this point, I became very
Okay, we're going to do a little pause. Oh, wait. He's just about to say something important.
confused with the order in which the scenes are playing out because Sanders keeps jumping from place to place. So many shots of him just playing with guns. Really?
Okay, pause. This is important. I'm glad he's acknowledged this. The film is difficult to watch from this perspective, in my opinion. I'm sure there's people with 160 IQ that are going to say, nah, that was a piece of cake. Okay, for me it wasn't. Here's why. The film does jump timelines a lot, okay? And changes scenes very unexpectedly. So, for example, you get the world news reporting with footage with police carrying out corpses from a certain apartment complex, but it's different than the apartment complex in which we just were in the previous scene. And just before, there's a scene clearly of the protagonist being interrogated, probably in a legal context. Okay, so there's a lot of changing of timeline. It is confusing to follow. Okay, Now, like I said, because this kid keeps on trying to force his opinion onto the film, his confusion is irrelevant, but credit to him, at least he's mentioned it. Congratulations, noticing your stupidity is the first step to try and cure it.
Loading and reloading that shit. They have 3 shots of him playing with guns, and they run that shit for like 10 minutes total. And the movie's not even 90 minutes long, so we really are stretching the concept of movie here. So I'm gonna...
As I told you before, they have the physical preparation and the armament preparation. This is part of establishing the concept of what this Punisher figure is going to be like. That's it. Firearms, by the way, are very important. You as an American ought to understand this, so I'll help you. Okay? You see, Europe is very, very largely disarmed. Okay? It is very difficult to acquire firearms in the in the European Union. Okay? Some countries more, some countries less. All countries with different rules and regulations and stuff and everything like that. Just like in the United States, in the different states. Even though you should have the Second Amendment of the Constitution protecting your right to, in fact, do what it is that you suggested earlier, which is getting a gun is as simple as going to the candy store. Now, that's more than simply symbolic. A population that is disarmed is a population that cannot insurge. Is that a word? That cannot stand up violently against their government should they want to. The Punisher in this film, the Vigilante, does it. Completely illegally, because it's the only option. You understand? That's why those weapons are there. And there's also an interesting choice of weapons. Almost every weapon shown is fully automatic. That's the hardest to come by, I'm pretty sure. I mean, certainly as a Canadian citizen myself, those were all in the prohibited category, for example, because Canada has its own system. Okay? So, the European people are a disarmed people. Makes it very difficult to set up a resistance. That's why the governments disarm them. And that's why your stupid advocacy to disarm America is very, very wrong. Because there might be a day in which there will be a cause that you are really upset by. That in fact causes one of your family members or something like that to suffer an awful tragedy, and you will be there powerless to do anything. And even if you think that your government is not protecting you in any meaningful way, there will be absolutely no representation of any sort, while the taxation will be as high as it always was and always will be, and it will keep on increasing, if anything. But right now you don't see that. There's a number of reasons why you don't see that. Chief among them, the one that you're a bit slow. The second reason is the one that you're very young and full of yourself and convinced that you have absolutely figured out the planet, which is ridiculous because you don't even have a white hair on your face. Which most likely indicates, if anything, that the 19th should be repealed and you should be one of the ones that loses the right.
I do my best to explain his first act of vigilantism. He's on a bus. 3 teenagers walk in. They refuse to pay for their tickets. The bus driver stops the bus. He refuses to drive until they all pay him. €1.50 a ticket. And the teenagers are like, no, we're not paying. Drive.
Didn't I tell you to sit down and drive the fucking bus?
In this unspecified location in Europe. So Sanders gets up, approaches...
It's all in Zagreb, mate. I know it's not mentioned in the film, but if you can read the signs, you will know that we're in Croatia. You remember when you showed those military trucks traveling around town? They have the Croatian flag on the door. I know that to you it means nothing because you do not know what the Croatian flag looks like. I know. But I think your ignorance is not representative of everybody's. Capiche?
The group and says, gentlemen, everyone on this bus has somewhere they have to be, and for some of us it's urgent, so please resolve your issues and go drive the bus. But the driver refuses until everyone pays, so Sanders pays for them, and the driver literally says,
150 times 3, 450. There you go. Let me just give you a change.
Keep the change.
all right, it's not fucking America, it's a bus fare. Get your change and shut up.
What? Was it? Hey? What do you think that other places? Hey? What? Do you know I have given more money to people in cash for some stuff, and I've told people to keep the change. In fact, it's very much happened recently. I went to purchase diesel for my van, and it cost me, I can't remember exactly, but it was some number 99. Okay? And I gave them the next integer. And the lady told me, would you like the change? And I said, no, thank you, you can keep it. And I walked away. But why are you petty that you focus on these incredibly silly things that don't matter a bugger to anybody? Okay? And why are you so dim that you don't understand what is actually what the film is attempting to say? The man in question, who is busy, decides to pay out of his own pocket, big important thing, for people who are misbehaving right now, to resolve the issue because he is in a hurry, needs the issue resolved. So resolves it, right? And he is not such an awful little twerp that won't even pay such a small nominal sum to travel. I mean, it's essentially free travel, and these kids will not pay it. He, however, has worked in his life, works still, okay, and has made lots of money, or enough money, that to him 50 cents is irrelevant. In fact, 5 euros is irrelevant. So he hands the 5 euros in cash and doesn't want the 50-cent coin back. Okay? And he has solved the problem of these 3 little petty criminals, okay, because he doesn't have the time for this problem. This is an irrelevant problem to him. He will realize the error of his ways later. But this is what's happening here, man. How do you not understand anything? But yet you make fun of it with that excrement-eating grin on your face.
He then sits next to them and he gives them a very important, very deep life lesson. If you get onto a bus and you don't pay for your ticket, if you go to the movie theater, if you grab a banana at the grocery store and you don't pay for it, eventually the cost of everything will go up. If 10% doesn't pay, the cost will go up 10% to cover the loss. Oh, what a luxury it is to blame poor people for the fact the economy is shit. What a luxury.
Who's doing what you just said? Blaming poor people. He's talking about theft, man. Now, this is an interesting aspect because I have spoken with other irritating lefties in my life. And one of the things that they do, and it's very common and it's very annoying, is that they essentially put a value of size, okay, on crimes. In other words, if I am a CEO of a company and I embezzle $3 million, that's very bad. That needs to be resolved pronto, right now, immediately. That theft is unacceptable. But if I nick a Mars bar, that's fine. That's because they are unprincipled fools. And then what they do is they add this sort of coat of humanitarian touchy-feely thing, like, oh, they're poor people. That girl, those 3 kids looked poor to you? Looked fairly well dressed to me. The girl's wearing lots of makeup. Makeup is expensive. They're not poor. What they are is they're petty little criminals who are going to turn into much more serious criminals later, which they do in the film, because all crimes are insufferable. Last year, I was a victim of fraud. I paid for something that was never delivered to me. I went to the local police and filed a report. I brought all of the evidence, all of my communication with this particular company or whatever front or whatever weird thing that happened, it doesn't matter. Okay, I gave all of the details to the policeman. The policeman immediately on the spot called the company. Nobody picked up the phone, and he confirmed, okay, so stuff is happening here, etc. We have a suspect, we have everything. It's been over a year. I've been contacted once in between, but an extremely rude female policewoman who said, has the case been resolved? And I answered to her, well, no. I mean, I thought you guys are in charge of resolving the problem. And they told me, okay, this is now responsibility of this city, a different city near mine, this city's jurisdiction. I said, okay, I'm still waiting. Now, I have lost not €5 and not 50 cents. I've lost 600 euros. That's approximately 800 of your Benjamins. Okay? That's what happened to me. The police hasn't done a darn thing. If I call the police now, they won't even know that I exist. The quantity of crimes that do not get solved in Europe, okay, is staggering. And it starts with these little twerps on buses. It's got nothing to do with blaming the poor. You lying sophist. Obviously, I'm talking to the audience, not to this brain-dead fool, because there's no hope for his mental clarity. Blaming the poor. Man, I hate communists with a passion. They are the stupidest entities that have walked the earth. I think squirrels are less stupid. It's incredible. They have no level of empathy at all. If somebody stuck their hand in your pocket and nicked your wallet, you'd be rather upset. I'm not saying that you'd advocate for a vigilante to come and shoot the guy in the back so you can get your wallet back. That's not what I'm saying. Though, I'm pretty sure that after they steal your wallet a couple of times, you may start thinking about it. I don't know, man. Don't know what to tell you. How do you have no empathy at all? Do you know there's an incredibly common crime in Italy? It's very old. It's called scippo. That's what we call it. And the way it works is there is a man or two men on a moped, on a little moped, very, very common in Italy. This is something that you as an American absolutely cannot understand unless you watch videos of Taiwan or something, or Thailand, right? So Italian roads are absolutely littered by these small CC motorcycles, loads of them, okay? Mopeds, we call them. And what they do is they target old ladies usually, or young ladies that look scrawny, who have just left the ATM or the post office, where most Italian old people collect their pension. And what they do is they ride the bike just beside them and they tear the bags off of them. Because unfortunately women do not have pockets because they're a bit mental, and so they carry their valuables in bags. Okay, in Italian we call them borsette, okay, which means small bag. And they take them away. The older the target, the easier it is. The weakest the target, the more they do it. So pray tell, am I blaming the poor now? Because I don't think a lady with her pension after her husband has died, she lives literally paycheck to paycheck, and it's not even a paycheck, it's a pension plan. But all of her money was stolen, and she's not getting it back. The problem isn't the quantity of money that's stolen, and the problem isn't who does the stealing. The problem is theft. Period. You moving the category and pretending that other elements matter makes you absolutely revolting.
It is to believe that it's migrants and refugees causing prices to go up and not billionaires hoarding wealth, you asinine. The kid then reaches for his...
See why it's difficult not to swear? When somebody calls me an asinine constable? But fortunately, I'm in a stratosphere of superiority over this dimwit, so I'm not going to engage in this way.
Pocket, but Sanders puts a gun up against his torso and is like, no, you may not know this, but today is the luckiest day in your life, believe me. And the kid has the same facial expression throughout. Like, the acting was really phoned in here. He's just chilling. He's like, yeah, man, shoot me, I don't care.
He's not chilling, you fool. He's defying him. Unfortunately, because you're 12, you do not understand what people your age do with their own parents, even though most likely you do it on a daily basis. Your dad or your mom asks you to do something and you start defying them, and then you do it as a force of habit until you usually graduate to the age of 35, 40, and you go, you know, maybe I owe these people a little something, something, so maybe you start behaving in a less displeasurable way. That kid is defying authority. I did that a lot when I was young. That's what he's doing. The acting is actually quite good. It is obviously symbolic, once again. But please do insist on taking everything literally. After all, you do not have the capacity of understanding the underlying messages. But you do have the capacity of inventing your own. So at least creativity is there. Well done. A for effort.
Oh God, someone shoot me. So like the first...
Oh, please. Oh, sorry. Sorry, YouTube. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. That was just in jest.
Act as a vigilante
I wouldn't suggest. It's jest.
Was paying for these kids' bus tickets. Dangerous guy. Then he visits a woman in the hospital, a woman that has been badly raped and beaten. And he sits next to her and he asks her what she wants.
Pause. How do you know that she's been that and that beaten? We can see it from her injuries. But there's no knowledge as to whether the sexual part has happened. At least I didn't pick it up. I might be wrong here. I don't know.
And another example of them just burning runtime. He's like, what do you want? Who are you? I'm just here to help. What do you want to happen? What do you mean? The man who did this. What do you want to happen to them? I'm like, did we really have to ask that 3 times?
Yes, we did. Because lots of people, unlike you, who are zealots, okay, they are somewhat dormant, okay? They are somewhat dormant. The reason why this film is exploding in popularity, despite the fact that you argue that it isn't, is that it's bold, it's courageous. Now, pray tell, why is it courageous? Why is it coming across as courageous? Okay? It's because many of the things that the film says are illegal in a subconscious way, at least. So illegal probably isn't the right word, but it's, anti-cultural to say or think. But lots of people do think them. So what the film is showing, in my opinion, or I might be wrong, but it's a much more charitable and more intelligent interpretation than your own, that's for sure, because your own is, bleh, I don't know. My interpretation is that they are doing it because the confirmation of the desire for justice must be extracted from the person. Even the victim is not prepared to say that they would like to see justice. This is a common theme, man. It runs through the film. It happens several times in exactly the same format, or in a similar enough format. What should happen to the people that did this to you? Should they pay? And after a bit of haranguing, the victims say, yes, they should pay. In fact, in the later scene, which you will discuss between the father and the child, the father refuses to engage, but the child, the victim, says no, they haven't paid and they should. The vigilante is collecting information from the victims, getting their confirmation, their consent that he should act as their arm. Because he's got the courage, the training, and the gear. That's a very different interpretation, isn't it? Somewhat subtler than yours. Incredible.
And the woman...
Because I roll like a freaking woman every 5 seconds.
Says she wants the men to end up in prison for the rest of their lives, which sounds sensible enough, reasonable enough. And then he goes on a mini rant about how that's actually really bad because she's going to have to go to court. They're going to call her a liar, discredit her. And meanwhile, the men will probably do that to more people. Is that really the justice that you want? She says no, and they hold hands for an uncomfortable amount of time. So he still hasn't done...
uncomfortable amount of time. Uncomfortable for whom? There is a meaningful exchange of pain being transferred between two individuals. You crass worm of a man. Obviously, it's a film, it's a representation, but this is what it's trying to say. The woman is in severe pain. She's got the pain bottled up, and by pain, I don't mean the physical one. Okay? And she knows that what the Vigilante says is true. Okay? Digwa, who has ended up in prison relatively recently for the stabbing of Henry Novak, yeah, did the stabbing a year ago. Okay? Legal proceedings are slow. Now, there's some degree of reasonableness to that. Legal proceedings should be extremely conservative. The last thing you want is an innocent man to be punished. Everybody who's reasonable agrees. Okay? The problem is, in some situations, there's clear-cut victims and clear-cut attackers. The Henry Novak case is so blatantly represented by this film. A level of severe injustice has happened there. And it hasn't been resolved, and it never will be. Okay? So, I mean, the fact that the Digwa ends up in prison doesn't matter a bugger to anybody. Right? People want Digwa to disappear because he has killed somebody else. Mark Novak has lost a child. The sister's lost a brother. The mother's lost a son. Okay? This woman in this film has lost her serenity, her happiness, at the moment her time. She needs to recover. She might never recover fully. Who knows what she's lost? We don't know. We just know bits in the film. And the Punisher says, do you think the man should be behind bars? Yes. So should the current legal system deal with this situation? Yes, she says. Says, okay, so it's going to do this, going to do that, going to do this, going to do that. And there's going to be a lawyer somewhere, okay, probably one of a rather important nostril persuasion, who is going to deliberately discredit you, because that's his role, to protect the active criminal. Okay? In the meanwhile, this criminal could cause damage to others. This is not a strange situation, man. Look at George Floyd's criminal record. Look at all of these people's criminal records. I mean, their criminal records look like my friggin', like a piece of code I've written, like thousands of lines. This is ridiculous. They get away with stuff over and over and over and over and over and over and over. The guy that stabbed Irina Zarutska, I think they were declaring that he might not be fit to stand trial. I don't care what he's fit for. Bury him underneath the prison. That's what everybody thinks. Everybody's an exaggeration, because there's twerps like this guy in the world, unfortunately. But yeah, that's what's happening. That's why this film resonates. You slow man.
Anything wrong. But then we cut to him being interviewed about something that happened at a bar. And what we see happened at the bar is actually a really good Samaritan action. He saw two men trying to drug two women, and so he distracted them and swapped the glasses so that when they drank the shots, it was the men who got drugged, not the women. Then told them what happened, told them to get to safety, and just left the men there. Though his two acts so far have been nothing but helping people out, the thing about Sanders is he's a landlord. And that automatically makes him a shit person, the villain.
All right. Okay, so now we go down the ad hominem attacks again within the context of the film. Because this idiotic moron that I have the misfortune of speaking to and about right now to the audience of zero, because it's a video that's going to last 2 hours, because he has prejudice, which I know he's not too keen on as a word, but unfortunately contradiction is rather common in the mind, charitably called, of the retard. He is prejudicial towards landlords. Landlords are people that make homes available to others. I'm a landlord. To my knowledge, my tenant is very, very happy with me. I repair everything that goes wrong very, very fast. And my tenant, I only have one place that I'm renting out because my parents died in it. Okay, so I happen to have that. I know I'm disgusting for it. I do apologize. But there's this lovely Frenchman who is an older gentleman who is in this country where I'm in right now because he wants to be closer to his daughter who also lives here. Okay? Now he wanted an apartment which is, a little bit closer to the city center so he doesn't have to walk too much. Okay, so my apartment came really useful. Really works for him. Okay? I have raised the rent on him one time in, I think, 3 or 4 years. Okay? The rental market has skyrocketed here, so he is presently severely under renting. Okay? And I'm happy with that because I've told them directly, I do not want to ruin your life. Right? I do not want to make it impossible for you to live here. You're here to be with your daughter. That's okay. You are doing me the courtesy of treating my place with respect, which I appreciate. And so we're very happy. He gets what he wants, which is a place to be, and I get what I want, which is a little bit of income. That's how it works. Now, of course, for many an occasion, it's not as smooth as that for numerous reasons. Sometimes landlords are unscrupulous. Sure. Sometimes tenants are insolvent or they refuse to pay their dues. And that sometimes is very damn common. And when you are a landlord, you will discover how paramount it is for you to find a good tenant. You are, dramatically better off not renting anything at all unless the tenant you're renting to you trust. And even then, you can get it wrong. Because the laws are designed to protect criminal tenants. A tenant could absolutely wreck your place. You're gonna get nothing for it. It's pure risk. Now, the only argument you can be making, the only proclamation you can be making is the following, and I'm sure this is what you actually think, because you're stupid as a bag of bolts. What you want is for my property, which I purchased for my dying parents. They weren't dying at the time, okay, so that I could look after them. Get expropriated from me, okay, even though I bought it from a person who voluntarily sold it to me, okay, so that it can be donated to somebody else for equality. You know, it's very easy to be a redistributionist with somebody else's asshole. Very easy. We have a saying in Italian, and I'm going to break my vow of not swearing in this one, okay? I'm going to say it in Italian, so that you can look it up, okay? Sono tutti froci col culo degli altri. Okay? That translates to everybody is homosexual with somebody else's bummy. Okay? It's a bit more colorful than that, but that's what that means. If there's one thing that we can thank the Italians for, is colorful language. People like this worm are disgusting. I would piss on him if he was on fire.
Really?
Is this hate speech? Probably. I don't know.
And because he's a landlord, he likes to spend his free time inspecting the buildings that he owns to make sure that there are no damages, to make sure that they are in tip-top condition. And we get more shots of the military vehicles.
No, this is the alibi he uses. You slow man.
Heading in his direction, intercut with him getting ready inside a metal box that has holes specifically just for rifles. And this is all shown in a montage with really loud, deafening music playing in the background. Like we're about to see this massive showdown that's going to be super exciting, and then it's not. Just allow distraction to distract you from what's happening on the screen, which is distracting enough as is. What are we doing? His manifesto...
Yeah, what are you saying more than anything? What's your problem with any of this? I don't know.
Continues, and he tells people, the people listening, the people watching, that governments and courts and police didn't fail them because they were never put there to protect them. They only exist to control people. But he is here to help everyone take control back. And now
That's an interesting point, actually. Not the whole control back, but that I remember that sentence in the film. That was a sentence that surprised me to some extent. Because it's a rebellious sentence, even though it's obvious that the justice system is put in place to essentially ensure that the justice is blind, so that there's a third-party arbitrator in a dispute. I mean, this goes way, way, way back to the point where you would have had, people are requesting an audience to the king and expressing their grievances, and the king would need to deliberate. Something to that effect, right? I would assume. And obviously, it's very evolved by now, and it's attempting to keep the justice blind. The problem is that justice isn't blind anymore. It's just, it's not blind at all. It's enforcing certain things very well, like speeding tickets, but not doing anything about fraud, in the example that I gave before. It's also that it's incredibly ineffective. So that messaging, is it actually saying that through this ineffectiveness and corruption, the justice system has in fact become a system of control? Because I don't entirely disagree. If you go to the United Kingdom, malicious communications, I think is called, as an act or whatever, right? There seem to be enforcement of that. Now, I'm sure there's enforcement of, murder prosecutions and stuff like this, but it's absolutely insane to put two videos side by side, one about the reaction to Henry Novak's situation, and the other one, say, the video in which they go and pick up the old bloke and the old lady because they protested about the school for their children. And they protested publicly, and therefore there was classed as harassment. And it looks like the same amount of policing is being deployed to do both of these things. In one case you have a murder, in one case you have something completely irrelevant that doesn't matter and should be resolved privately. So it's a provocative statement. I don't think it's accurate. Because I do think that in the past, these machineries, the court system and everything were put in place earnestly, correctly, to function as they should. I don't think the legal system works as badly as it does. I think there's a bit of confusion, as is claimed. I think there's a bit of confusion. There's at least two problems. Number one, there are too many laws, far too many laws that are causing far too many proceedings that should not be there. That's number one. Number two, there's far too many criminals and it keeps on going up and the criminals aren't being stopped. And by stopped, I mean permanently stopped. So these two elements really water down the effectiveness of the legal system, because the wrong laws destroy your life and do control you, like speed cameras is a great example. And then the other effect that they also have is that they clog the entire machinery. So yeah, I don't know what was meant in the film by that. So in a weird way, in a diagonal oblique way, I'll repeat the same word just in a fancier word for some reason, this young fella is right. But hey, every broken clock, am I right?
Movie is just shots of the military vehicles intercut with his pixelated manifesto. I love it. We're in the past again, and
I don't care if you love it or not. You're just essentially declaring this is what's happening, and you're implying that you don't like it and it's bad. Okay, cool, well done. I don't know. You should change your channel to Idiot is Opinionated. Just like my channel. It'd be great. Then nobody can protest. They'll still do it. Don't worry.
Sanders goes to a brothel, which is, as we know, a place known for workers' rights and protection, everything very lawful and legal. Because he's such a fan of the legal system and doing things the right way, right? Right?
Unfortunately, you show your ignorance again. And in some way, I will too. But fortunately, mine is way more contextualized. I do not know anything about the Croatian laws in terms of brothels. That I don't know. But I do know, and perhaps I'm wrong, so anybody who's German can correct me, that in Germany, brothels are legal. Or were legal for a very, very, very long time. Longer than almost any other country in the European block. Now, I do not know about this because I'm not the market and it doesn't interest me at all. So I don't know. But I had a professor of economics in university when I still frequented in my 20s, so this would have been 20 years ago, that I know was involved with a chain of brothels in Germany. And I remember being surprised, but he said they are legal in Germany. Okay? Now, this may be a bit in which this reality bends a little bit. So Uwe is now using his own knowledge of his own context and inserting it into this. Perhaps. I don't know. Okay? But yes, brothels are legal. They might be seedy, they might be immoral, whatever it is. Last I checked, you as a lefty don't have any morals, so don't even go down that route. Okay? So the situation that we've got is that they are legal. Now, as you correctly pointed out, the film is shot in Europe. So it's possible that Uwe is making this sort of category jump from Croatia to Germany in terms of these brothels. Okay? Okay. So no, they're not illegal.
Right? There's a lot of close-ups.
Wrong, but okay.
Of women's legs and women's cleavage, like a very intrusive POV. In case anyone thought that whoever made this movie had good intentions, they didn't. But he finally finds a woman he likes and he offers her 50 euros, which is enough to cover one position. And if he wants extra, it'll be an extra 30 euros. That's the real crime right there. Thinking that 50 euros is enough to cover any type of sex work. We all want to be heroes and vigilantes until it's time to actually pay enough for sex work. The music continues.
I don't even know what this was. What are you talking about? I'm sorry, are you a prostitute yourself? In Germany or in Croatia, assuming it's legal? Like, how do you know if 50 euros is enough or isn't enough? I have no idea. What? Like, I mean, 80 euros is not an insignificant sum of money. I don't think that prostitutes can request a very large amount of money. It's their job doesn't require numerous PhDs. I don't know, mate. I have no idea, right? Like I said, I'm not the market, but I have no idea if this is just symbolic. I have no idea if it's expensive, if it's cheap. I haven't got a clue. Now, the way you're talking, it sounds like you do. I'd be surprised if you knew the conversion rate between the euro and the US dollar. You've never mentioned it. You're just declaring 50 is not enough. 50 euros is what, 75 bucks, I think? 70 bucks, something like that. Therefore, 80 euros is what, 120? Something like that. Is that a lot? Is that a little? I have no clue. But it will change from country to country, you absolute bug. Yeah? If you go to a second world country or a third world country, you will be surprised. The prices go down dramatically. People live with a lot less money in some other places, son. So I shouldn't be surprised, but he finds new ways to lower his IQ all the time. It's remarkable. It's remarkable. It's like you're digging down the flat earth to see if it is in fact flat. If you find the other side. I don't know. Confusing.
Is loudly deafening, and after watching them make out and her blowing him, they start having sex. They start doing it. And then he interrupts it mid-coitus because he notices some patches on the wall, and he's beside himself. He's like, whoa, woman, get off me. I need to investigate. And he looks at them and he says, it's mold. When you let your client shower in the bathroom after you're done, do you open the window? Because if you let them shower and it gets hot, the steam the steam builds and you get mold in the room. She's like, why you care? He says, because I own the building. So he owns the building that hosts the brothel. And then they resume sex with him constantly staring at the mold patches.
Okay, so I will agree. I will throw him an olive branch of a different kind. I think this scene, this entire sex scene, was absolutely unnecessary, personally. I kind of scrubbed through it. I never like sexual scenes in films because I do not want to be a voyeur, right? The scene surprised me. I thought he was going to go through, do something. No, but he actually ended up having intercourse with this random woman with silicone breasts. And she was also Filipino or something like that. Presumably still is. And yeah, in this seedy scenario, he does look up, etc. I think the film would have been way better if they completely skipped this scene. Now, I'm going to attempt to actually offer another German interpretation of this particular scene. So if we go with my theory that the brothel is a German concept, okay, I can, as an Italian man, imagine nothing in this world more German than a man mid-coitus worrying about admin. That is the most German thing that has ever German on the land of Germany. Now, obviously, I'm facetious, but not as much as you think. Like, there's loads of stereotypes about Germans being all precise, tutti precisini. Okay, they're all very. Everything must be done right. Okay, they're very, very strict about things. So it is really rather remarkable, that particular scene. I think that there's for this aspect of the mold. There is a second bit as well that I want to touch on. Unless you've lived in places where mold is an issue, you don't understand it. The end. There's no discussion to be had. Unless you have had mold problems in your house, you cannot understand this. Where I live right now, mold problems are all the rage. They happen all the time and you need to maintain them all the time. It's a whole thing. It's complicated. Okay? Anybody that lives where I live right now knows exactly what I'm talking about. Okay? This man probably doesn't know. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But he trivializes it. It's not trivial at all. Mold is a big deal. Okay? Not going to go further into that. Now, another aspect that I think is important about this scene, and I think this also justifies it because it's reiterated later, is this. The white man in Europe is such a law-abiding individual that even when he does seedy things or whatever, he always comes through to his word. So what happens in the scene is that after there's the mold interruption, they change position. So then the woman asks the guy for the extra 30. And he says, yes, you've done your job, you've earned them. In fact, when he tells her, I own the building, she says, oh, so you don't get to pay anything? And he says, no, you've done your job, here's your money. Now, there would have been 150 million different ways of doing exactly, of conveying exactly the same meaning. But they've done it this way. Now, like I said, the film has some choices that I don't particularly approve of. For example, the goriness of the blood spatters looks silly to me. It's cartoonish, and I think it diminishes the seriousness of the film. Showing a pair of stonking personalities on a lady's chest, even though they are made of plastic, I mean, I'm sure it's for some people's eyes. It certainly wasn't for mine. In fact, so much so, I wanted to watch this film with my wife, and I described it to her earlier, and she's not going to watch it because of this scene. Okay? So, I am confused. This scene also, increases the rating of the film. It's unnecessary. I would be curious to know what Uwe thought. Maybe he thought that will help the film sell, so it was a pragmatic choice. I'm not sure. I'm sure that my interpretation of the last one that I gave, the one about the coming through with a deal type of thing, is definitely there. That one I'm fairly confident of. But the rest, I don't know. But in a sense, I can understand why he's laughing at this. It's not really laughable in that sense. I found it pretty squalid, but yeah.
And what an interesting scene this was, because he's not celibate, but he had to pay for it. So is he an incel? If he didn't pay for it, he wouldn't get it.
Listen, the fact that you're 12 and you need to communicate with your neologisms doesn't matter a bugger to anybody, okay? Uwe doesn't even know what an incel is. He's somebody who doesn't have a wife or a girlfriend or anything like that and decides to pay for this urge being resolved. For his sexual desire being resolved. That's it. That's what he does. instead of doing what you probably do, which is exercise with your right hand, and then when it gets tired, you switch to the left and give yourself 30 euros after. Okay?
I don't think anyone would want to, like, my God.
Do apologize to everybody younger in the audience, but I'm a little bit peeved.
2 words out of this man's mouth and... But also the fact that he interrupted the act to look at the mold patches and take care of his property. That's a real businessman. That's a real businessman who understands the hardships of maintaining financial stability in a volatile market. Yeah, let's go with that.
No, he's a German, you absolute fool, and you know nothing. But other than that...
There's another news report by World News, this time talking about the risks associated with immigration outweighing its benefits and that it's time to rethink their policies. The policies in immigration outweigh...
Note this, because I did notice this, okay? It says Polizia, and up here it says Guardia Costiera, so we're in Italy. Oh, interesting. There's some numbers here. I wonder if that's like the date or something, because this could be real footage that's being used. Right, because this over here, you can tell this is Alfa Romeo Mito, and this one over here is a Fiat Ducato. We're definitely in Italy. There is no question. Guardia Costiera is the Coast Guard. It's a specific branch of the police because lots of migratory patterns come from the south. My guess is this is a footage of Lampedusa. That's my guess. Yeah, here it says Italy declares states of emergency. I mean, influx of migrants crossing into Europe. So you can see that this obviously is a invented icon and that sort of stuff. But the point stands. Italy's been having this problem forever. I was still in Italy when this stuff was being reported on, in these words, in this way. Okay? This is just context.
Weighing its benefits and that it's time to rethink their policies, the policies in Europe. Because again, it's a monolith. They all have the same policies.
It is. When it comes to this, it is. Hungary, who is part of the European Union, has been paying massive fines for refusing to take in refugees. Who was fining them? The European Union. Portugal pays massive fines to the European Union because they refuse to allow free import of vehicles from other countries. It's so lucrative for them to have a protectionistic vehicle market in Portugal, okay, that they are going to take the fine. At least that's the theory that the conspiracy theorists say online. But the point is that loads of states are fined by the European Union. You ignorant animal. The fact that you don't know anything doesn't mean you get to be, I mean, you do get to be smug, because smugness is a characteristic of the idiot, right? But it doesn't mean that anybody needs to take you seriously. You know nothing. It is a monolith, the European Union, yes, and it's got its own crappy rules that many need to subject to. I mean, why in the flip do you think the United Kingdom has attempted to exit via Brexit? Have you heard of it? That's reached even your shores as information. I know you've forgotten because you're too busy thinking about the size of Donald Trump's hands, because you're petty and stupid. But all of this stuff exists. Uwe Boll, I think is his name, knows more about Europe than you will in a lifetime of research. And the fact that you do not understand this is pathetic to a degree that's kind of weird. Okay? You are so stupid you should not be allowed around crayons because they have pointy tips. That's an issue. I know I've said it a million times, but it's like he keeps on finding new angles.
Just one big, beautiful country.
There's so many layers to you, man. You're like an onion. It's rotten, but you're like an onion. I need to keep peeling.
See, World News is not a media company as much as it is just the vehicle through which the director voices his opinions. The news reporter is saying what the director truly thinks.
Yeah. It's the director's opinions. You see, it's the director's opinion that there's a picture of the Guardia Costiera down in Lampedusa reporting about the fact that there's a stupid amount of migration pattern coming in constantly and nobody can stop it. It's absolutely the director's opinions. It's not me having lived there. I mean, I never was in the south of Italy, but still. We had the Albanian and the Romanian problem, and that was 20 years ago. They were rather fond of petty theft, Albanians and Romanians. Do you know that? Well, now you do. How about the gypsies? You don't even know what a gypsy is. Man, I dislike Americans when it comes to this stuff. They're great people, but when it comes to expressing opinions about others, they are dumb as a bag of bolts. It's unbelievable. Not all, obviously, duh, but it's common. It's really common. And then as soon as you bring it up, they're going to tell you how they saved you in World War II or whatever. It's like, okay, sounds good. I'm sure you saved the people in Laos during Vietnam as well. Well done.
We're back to the soldiers, and they have finally reached their destination after so many shots of the vehicles just heading somewhere. And they break into the house where he's hiding, only for him to give them a warning from inside the metal box. He doesn't want to kill them. He just wants to do his job, and they're making it more difficult. And this is their last chance to leave, and they don't. So he opens fire, and he starts killing all of them one by one. And the shootout scene has once again bossa nova style music playing in the background. Why? He was really...
I agree. I do not know why. It stood out to me as well. I'm not sure. Bossa nova. So bossa nova would be something that I would associate with dancing, with a party, like the Brazilian movida. It's the first thing I think of. So I'm wondering, it's definitely a contrast, and it's definitely a choice. The fact that you don't like the choice says nothing about the film. I too found it peculiar. But then again, why is Wong Kar-wai obsessed with Norah Jones? I don't know. Right?
Trying to make this a comedic scene, I can tell. I can smell it. And it smells like bullshit. And then my favorite scene.
This scene is definitely symbolic. 100%. Because what happens is that these government stooges all come in and they all stand in line of fire. They don't act, they don't do anything at all. And he uses these AKs, which he holds in two hands, and these two mounts for some reason, to mow them all down. It's a strange scene. I didn't really understand it that much, but yeah, I myself didn't understand it. It seemed like some sort of like, this is what's going to happen to the government if the people decide to act. I guess, I'm not sure.
Which might be in the past or in the future, it's not clear, but wow, my god, this is where the hypocrisy really slaps you in the face. Sanders shows up to his landlord and management company head office to do a surprise inspection. And the guy there, the manager of this location, I guess, says that he's been using his office to conduct some private calls with residents who aren't paying their rent on time. And the average amount of people that don't pay their rent...
There's a few extra details. It's very evident that he's not supposed to usurp his private office, but he has been using it. This manager sounds pretty sleazy, and I'm pretty sure that the protagonist notices it.
Rent on time is about 10%. And Sanders says that if it's always the same 10% not paying their rent on time, he wants them evicted immediately. But the manager reminds them that this is Europe, and Europe has laws. They can't just kick people off.
The United States also does. In fact, there's so many problems with squatting in the United States and refusal of paying rent in numerous states. Look it up. It's all over the place. This thing, absolutely disgusting. That laws exist to protect tenants. I think they're all fundamentally wrong. Fundamentally wrong. I was a tenant myself once. I never gave, multiple times in fact, I never gave a single problem to any of my landlords ever. So, and we had a good relationship. I never had a problem. I'm sure other people have problems, as I've already acknowledged. There's bad tenants and there's bad landlords. What idiots like this guy do is they say, because the tenant is poorer, the tenant has a license to be worse. And that's not true. It's as simple as that. And these laws, what they do is that they force landlords to vet the people that they rent to way harder and do all sorts of discrimination that is very unpalatable to loads of people. Like, for example, do you see a black guy with sagging trousers? Yeah, I'm not giving that guy my rented apartment for any reason. That doesn't matter. Don't care. You got golden teeth, you're not getting my apartment. Go get another one. Goodbye. Right? I'll discriminate on anything, right? Legal or illegal, it doesn't matter. And I can lie then in front of the court saying like, well, I have not rented to him because I didn't want to. What is the court going to do? Right? They need to demonstrate that I have bad ideas, etc., or that I'm discriminating in one way or the other. This is an untenable set of laws. They're all stupid. I can rent to whomever I want to because I want to. And then that you can't get rid of somebody even if they may be destroying your property, etc., is dreadful. Like, it's really stunting as a concept. It's bad. These are bad ideas. There's loads of them, like minimum wage or unions. These are all terrible ideas.
Out of their homes, they have to first request an eviction notice from the courts, which can only be done after 4 weeks of non-payment, and that eviction notice then gives them 7 months to kick the person out. Sanders is appalled. He's like, what, so they can get to live 7 months for free? Always love it when Americans move to Europe and they realize that there is actually laws that protect people in vulnerable positions.
What I do love is that you yourself do not know anything about your own country. The same things is happening in America as well, with the same problems, with the same dynamics. With the person being... Here's how it works. There is a very, very basic agreement, usually a form of contract, okay? And the contract says something very basic. It is, you can use this, you cannot wreck it, and you owe me this at this cadence. That's it. If you like these conditions, brilliant. If you don't like the conditions, either negotiate different conditions or simply rent somewhere else. It's simple. There is no difficulty here. Now, what happens if you are late on your payments? Okay, let's have a conversation. Can I help you in any way? Is there, etc.? There will be people that will not want to help. Sure. But they have a right. You're breaching the contract. A contract is an agreement, man. You gave your word that this is what you were going to do, and you're coming short on it. Okay? The fact that you like to change the definition of theft to match your literally feeling du jour doesn't change the fact that theft is theft is theft. It doesn't matter who does it, why they do it, etc. It's still theft. Ta-da! Simple. Right? So it is appalling to somebody who thinks that theft is wrong, such as myself, in a cosmic way. I think theft is wrong. There's no justification for that. If you're starving and stealing food, you're still stealing and you're still wrong. Simple. Okay? So I understand you disagree with me because of your stupid mustache. Whatever. The point is, I think that, whether you like it or not. Therefore, if somebody tells me, in order for me to evict somebody that I want to evict, etc., I need to give them reasonable notice, need to give them a reason, I need to, like, for example, I can't simply evict them. I can't simply get rid of them. And if they say to me, yeah, it takes 6 months to get rid of somebody. Okay, well, let's begin the process now. Okay? It's like, which is what this guy's going to do, right? We need to get rid of these people. That's what he's saying, right? And he says, well, you need to do it with this process, then this process. It's like, no. I don't want to evict them because they're not paying me rent. That's part of it. I want to evict them because I've decided. You become absolutely enslaved to these laws. Suppose, for example, you decide you want to sell that apartment that somebody is renting. Right? Now you need to sell the apartment at a much lower value because somebody is renting. So you're hostage now. It's unbelievable. It's like these laws are stupid wrong.
Which is what America is trying to undo now. Yeah, the US is like, no. We don't want European people getting rights and support from their government and socialist solutions.
I love it when people take a random snippet of a piece of news that they happen to like that matches what they are saying and boop, they just paste it there. It's beautiful. Brilliant. Good editing.
We want everybody unfucking happy. Sanders then goes on.
We want everybody unhappy. I'm very unhappy right now, mate. I'm not even renting.
About how he's got 3,500 units, which bring him 50,400,000 euros annually. And 10% of that is 5,040,000 euros that people are stealing from him.
Correct.
It's theft.
Yes,
he is owed all of that money for doing no fucking work. That's the beauty.
Oh, no work. Is that how it works? Have you ever been a tenant for anything, son? I'm going to put my money on no. Because there's only two options. If the answer is yes, you're a massive hypocrite. And if the answer is no, you're just a fool. And I think you're a decent combination of the two. But yeah, I don't think you're a tenant. It never ceases to amaze me the quantity of advocacy that is out there in the world for things that people don't know about. Like anti-gun advocates drive me off the reservation. Guns are bad, guns are bad, guns are things, people. Like, have you still not learned that banning things is stupid? Like, on the other side, you've got the people that yell, drugs are bad, and those you don't like. You're so retarded. Both of you. There are things. People get a hold of things if they want to, one way or the other. If they want to bad enough, they will.
Beauty of a capitalist system, you know, you can just own buildings and become entitled to people's livelihoods, or you get the privilege of kicking out 350 families because they owe you that money for all of the labor that you don't do. It should...
But I own the thing. What, should people not be able to own places? So, and there's no rent? So what, I can enter any home I want? Is that what you're saying? I can come stay at your place tomorrow. Can I? Not that keen? It's like, how do you reason? Communists are genuinely special people.
Be illegal for people to profit off of other people needing a place to stay.
Absolutely, it should be illegal. You're just owed a place to stay from birth.
A house. You know, if you want to buy a luxury home with all of your money...
There he is again. If you want to buy luxury, that's different. Mate, luxury, a crappy 50 square meter apartment with a fridge is luxury compared to how my parents live, let alone my grandparents. Everything shifts. Perceptions of poverty, perceptions of richness. Luxury right now is probably one of those pools that are like, what do they call them? Infinity pools? Yeah, I don't have an infinity pool, so what? But I own my house. Own my house. Am I poor? Am I rich? I don't know. You tell me, mate. I don't know. Should you be allowed to profit because people watch your crap? Why? Because I put work in this. To me, you don't. It just looks like videos, right? They just get done automatically. You're just talking to a microphone. Wow, big deal. You don't understand, man. I need to sit down and edit, etc. You don't do anything. That doesn't look like a lot of work to me. That's what you're saying about landlords. It's just... Why do I keep interrupting this guy? I don't know. I kind of want to go home. I am home. I too want this video to end. Trust me. But, I did promise myself I would react, so I will.
Then go ahead, go for it. But for people to make a living out of owning property and getting paid by people who need a place to live, and then they hike up the prices to increase their profits, and they never take care of the properties that they own. Oh, wow. Hell is not enough punishment for y'all. Property, real estate develop.
Hell is not enough punishment. You don't believe in hell, so get that word out of your mouth, would you?
You're all gonna burn in hell for eternity. Again, I'm not talking about the luxury housing market. Y'all do whatever you want with your millions and billions. But we're talking about social housing and affordable housing. Because, see, Sanders then shows this...
Social housing and affordable housing. I don't think you know what those words mean. I don't either, to be fair.
Guy, this manager, some damage to a building that he owns. And the manager's like, oh, we can get that fixed straight away. But Sanders says, no... Not in a building as big as this one. Just make sure it doesn't collapse.
I don't remember this. It's a little bit different. He was definitely saying that it's not worth it to fix that to a tip-top shape degree. And I don't recall the exact context, but it's not exactly how he says it. But yes, fundamentally speaking, essentially, he elects not to address stuff. He just says, make sure the building doesn't fall down. Which is, by the way, what he's required to do by law.
Sorry, you want people to pay rent on
a law that is wrong.
Time, but you won't fix the issues at the properties? Where have I seen this before? Well, yeah, landlords are leeches and parasites. Because you're complaining that...
Lol. Landlords are leeches and parasites. A leech or a parasite if you will, is an animal that attaches to a host and sucks the living life out of it. The house in which your bum is the host. You attach to the host. You are very small, the house is very big, the house is the host. You go into the house. If you refuse to pay rent, you're the parasite, you're the leech. If you pay rent, you're a leech that offers compensation, it's called. Therefore, you go from a parasitic behavior to, at worst, a saprophytic behavior, ideally to a symbiotic behavior. That's how it works.
People don't pay their rent on time, but you don't even do the bare minimum to maintain the standards of quality of their homes. And then has the nerve to complain that the plumbing in his luxury villa hasn't been completed yet. So Sanders is a prick. But there's more. Because the manager then says, tax officials have been
Here's the problem. The film does not express anything about you being, as you suggested, a bad person. You can't be a bad person. The problem that the film indicates is you can't be a criminal. There's a very big difference. Sanders is a man with expectations. He's tough, he's gruff, he's unpleasant, he's serious. Right? They are unpleasant traits, potentially, in some situations. He is effective, though. He gets stuff done because he's like that. He's very disagreeable. That's it. You can dislike him as much as you want, but he is now transitioning into criminality in order to solve other crimes. That's what vigilantism is. Right? Without the vigilantism part, he wouldn't be a criminal. Capiche? It's not difficult. You put more value on feelings than you do on facts, which is normal, because otherwise your worldview would be, well, your worldview is incoherent no matter how you slice it, but you wouldn't even be able to justify it to your own self.
investigating his holding companies. And that raised a few questions because, and get this, he's not a citizen. He didn't even enter this country legally. Guys, he's literally an illegal migrant complaining about illegal migrants committing crime. What?
He's not complaining about illegal migrants committing crimes. In fact, that's the point of the film, you buck. What it's doing is it's indicating that not all migrants are the same, and that the migrants that come in and own property and build businesses and employ loads of people and okay, these are people that have to go through hell and high water to be able to move. Okay, and they have to comply with all of the rules, regulation, pay a stupid amount of taxation to do all of this. Okay. Whereas the criminals that contribute nothing at all, simply make your life worse, seem to have essentially free access to our homes. And that does not make sense. That's what the film highlights. What you seem to find ironic, because it's so contradictory in your tiny little feeble mind, is not that difficult to understand. There's a marked difference between Sanders, the protagonist, and, for example, the family that he will end up punishing later.
Whilst committing crime as an illegal migrant. If you didn't think that racism was...
Dude, that was the gayest thing I've seen in ages.
The whole basis for this movie before, well, now you know. Because why are we taking advice from a white illegal migrant on how to treat illegal migrants?
I don't know, why am I taking advice from a fool on YouTube?
Huh? Because the government now wants to see these empty units for social housing, to house migrants. You know, social housing units that are empty. But Sanders says, no. They can't seize them. We can rent it to the government at full price. But the manager reminds him once again, there are laws. And Sanders replies in the most American way possible, My lawyers will deal with it. And the guy's like, actually, the lawyers can only do so much. I really would advise you to comply. Because again, you're an unregistered citizen. You don't live here. You don't pay taxes. What the fuck? Just own up to it and they'll even give you citizenship.
Who said that you don't pay taxes, you complete idiot? The company that is registered in Croatia pays all of the corporate taxes in Croatia. He may not pay taxes on his personal earnings. Duh. As he says in the film, he's a tourist. He's on its tourist presence. You're allowed to own companies in different countries, you know. Ay, bless him. There was another thing I wanted to say, but I kind of forgot it now. Right. Once again, the contrast. The government wants to confiscate these places, meaning expropriate this from a rightful owner, to then give them to these migrants. So it's insane, because this is the contrast that Uwe is most likely attempting to show. Somebody that might be unpleasant or whatever, or rich, it doesn't matter, is in the country, and it's illegal on a technicality, essentially, even though he owns the place, etc., and simply brings in money. Okay, brings in money, which helps all of the people around, okay, is even happy to rent the place to the migrants. But no, these migrants, okay, the same word is used for two completely different categories. These useless people, okay, refugees if you want, are being donated stuff at the cost of the people who own to be inserted into this machinery. And then on top of it, they do crimes. It's insanity. Anybody would lose their minds at something like this. But this fool instead loses his mind at the American, because the American doesn't have the right check mark on the passport. Isn't it brilliant? But instead, the guy from Syria that ends up raping a lady with another 6 blokes, that's lovely. Let them in. They have a right to housing, in fact. That's what he's saying. What a moron.
But he says, oh, you silly little I'm just an American.
I'm just here on an extended vacation.
This is what I mean when I say that he couldn't even be competent enough to make this a movie worthy of not giving an H certification to. Like, this movie's not worth banning. Like,
but it's not worth banning by banning it. Come on, man. You don't understand anything, I think, about foreign ownership of property or companies or anything like that. I also don't own a company in foreign lands. I've owned a company here. I've owned a company in Canada before, very small. But yeah, it's full of difficulties, stuff. I'm not even going to go into that. He's most likely incorporated himself because he's got the YouTube thing. But like any good American, he does nothing other than America, and he probably knows very little about America as well. It is absolutely possible, because what's being described there is somebody who is by the book within these essentially sort of wrong laws, is insisting that compliance is the easiest path. And he's saying, no, I will not comply because it's not the right thing to do, or whatever. So I will not comply, and I will fight it on on the civil legal courts. That's what I'll do. Very normal, completely reasonable, and it's not American. You Americans have not invented courts. I know. It's difficult to believe that, but there are courts in other places too, and they have civil proceedings as well. Ta-da.
What was the thinking behind this weird logic of an American delivering this justice? I can tell you the thinking behind it.
Go ahead.
It's designed for American audiences.
No,
because
it's
now
not.
they're going to see one of their own, a righteous white American who's in Europe delivering justice to help other fellow white people against the illegal invasion of illegal migrants. And it's
Unlikely. I think what's going on is that Uwe most likely respects the freedom in America, the freedom mind, the go-getter mind, that sort of stuff, as do I. You don't understand this because you weren't there. You probably weren't even born. But in the 90s, America was absurdly popular in many places in Europe. Slovenia would have certainly been one of them. Of course, not to everybody. There were loads of people who were more communist-minded, and by communist in this case, I mean it literally members of communist parties and that sort of stuff that would have disliked the imperialist, right? So there was that, but there was the other side as well, that knew that Americans were bringing all sorts of inventions and new things and new stuff and blah, 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 new music and everything. So there was a lot of respect for America. And I'm pretty sure that Uwe is probably the age of my father's. So I guess the American hero is an archetype that he thinks Europe needs. Europe needs to rekindle that spirit.
Just goes to show you that they don't see illegal immigration as illegal immigration. They see illegal immigration as non-white person moved to my country. We need to get them out. Like, it's racism. It's like this was written by Laura Loomer and produced by Ben Shapiro and executive produced by Sean Hannity. It's like
you're so mainstream. You don't even know who the actual people that are strongly against or that may have a racial bend are. Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro, a Jew. Ben Shapiro you're bringing. Isn't Laura Loomer one as well? I don't know. Okay. Who else did he mention? It doesn't matter. Andrew Clavin. I don't know. Choose them all. They're all Israelis. So, yeah. Like, you know, go for the right people. Yeah. Christopher Cantwell. I don't know. Find me the right people that actually are racially minded, you buck. But no. It's got nothing to do with that, as the film demonstrates amply. Because the Punisher punishes whites too.
All the bad shoved in one movie. Then on his way out of the office, he looks around and says, "It smells like a nursing home here. Get more fresh blood." So now he wants to fire older people because he doesn't like how old they are, even though they are still doing their job pretty competently.
Oh, and you know that how? You've just declared that. It's not said in the film. You just declared it. It's this is you've invented it, and you haven't even noticed. That's nice. There is a problem in the world, my friend, particularly in Europe, but I would argue in America too, at least to some part, but I'm not that competent about it, where there's a lot of old people in positions, a lot of lifers, and a lot of young people that don't have jobs. He would like to see a more dynamic team that is more go-gettery, more energetic. That's probably what that means. Okay? That's got positives and negatives. This is effectively what the whole Musk scandal with Twitter was about. That he went in and said, the way you guys do things seems antiquated and stupid, I'm going to fire half of you. And then it was a bit of salt and vinegar for a bit, and now it's business as usual, and it doesn't matter. And the leftists have invented blue sky, so they can keep on, I don't know, arguing about Trump on their own between themselves in their little hug box.
You can't just fire people in Europe because they're old and you don't like the smell of them. Again, there are laws protecting workers. God, the contradictions in the script...
You're not supposed to talk about God, remember? You don't believe in him.
...are just astonishing.
I mean, a sodomite doesn't believe in God, right?
Like, nothing makes sense. First of all, both victims and perpetrators alike in this film are all immigrants, because they're all speaking English with European accents. I'm just assuming they all live in the United Kingdom. What are we doing?
They're in Zagreb, Croatia, mate. They all have an accent, champ, because they're dubbed by people that are not mother tongue. So they all sound ever so slightly different. What you refer to as an accent is stupid, because you do not know what an accent is. An accent would be if you speak like you're coming from a different state. That would be an accent, okay? What they do, I mean, a foreign accent is as far as you can go, meaning they sound foreign, generally speaking. Yes, they sound foreign because they are in the English language, okay? It would be rather difficult for your buddy Army to speak Serbo-Croatian, okay? Because he can't. You remember GTA 4? Nico Bellic. It's not supposed to be Bellic, and I do not know how it has two L's, but never mind. Okay, it's about as Slavic as, I don't know, My back scratcher. Actually, is it slightly? I don't know. Focus, Mike. I don't know why you keep on focusing on this thing of the things where you have a problem with the accent. They had a small budget. They used the actors they had. Ta-da! Well done. Everybody speaking English because they speak English decently, competently. That's why they sound foreign.
Here. What is the goal? He then goes to the house of the latest victim of rape, and he only has one question. Were you satisfied with the result that was reached in court for your daughter? The dad refuses to answer. He's like, how did you know we live here? How did you find us? Get out of here. I don't have time for this. But his daughter...
He doesn't say, I don't have time for this. He says, I don't want to deal with this. Go away. He doesn't want problems. He's somebody with his head firmly stuck in the sand. But the daughter instead would like some protection, which the father is not providing.
The real victim is behind him and says, no, there was no justice. And Sanders leaves. Another shot of him just walking. Then he goes into a park and he's walking and walking. And the three teenagers from earlier are now bullying a kid in the park. Until he gets there, he tases all of them and tells the young kid...
Interesting. The girl with them literally evaporated when he showed up. Yes, that's true.
To go home and tell his parents he wants to press charges against these fuckers. He then dishes out the most threatening threat to have ever threatened anyone in a threatening manner. He says, hello, boys. You remember me? If I ever see you put your hands on anyone else ever again, I will visit you, and you will not be walking away from it. Do you understand? He then stomps on their hands and he walks away, and the stomping is this quick montage, like intercut scenes of his face and then a prosthetic hand getting crushed. And then we see him walking away while the kids grunt in the background. And the camera just rises up and we keep seeing...
That's fine. He's got a problem with these the directorial decisions for whatever reason. Now let's talk about the bit that he said about the girl evaporating. That is definitely there. And that is definitely true. And I think it's actually highlighting various things. Basically, I think Uwe is essentially intimating or suggesting that this is going to be a man's world very soon, if this continues. Because it's going to be time to deal with the violent clashes between men. And the women are absolutely inadequate for this world. And so they are going to get ignored. And run away because it's your only option. The victims in the film are also basically all female. Or that sort of stuff. Or helpless, generally speaking. And helpless is, to some extent, equated with female. Because Uwe cannot be bothered, and this I'm pretty sure, because I've listened to him speak, cannot be bothered with the fake sort of political correctness, right? He's just saying, like, no, you guys need a fella to protect you. And your dad, in the case of the previous girl, is inadequate. That's why the girl evaporates. She's irrelevant. Okay? She was just egging these boys on. She was... she's a wrong'un. But you gotta fix the boys. And the punishment that he administers is the typical medieval punishment, which is, you have hurt somebody, I will hurt you severely. Okay? And I'm escalating the hurting, right, until we get to the ultimate one. It's basically the Hammurabi Code kind of thing. With a hint of Obama. If they hit you once, you hit them 10 times as hard. Sorry, I had to insert at least an because otherwise I would be too eloquent to sound like Obama. Don't sound anything like Obama. But, whatever.
Him walking away, and then we look at the kids and they're still grunting in the background, and then we see him walk away again. It's just a never-ending shot of him walking away and the kids screaming in pain.
Right.
Then the girl that he visited and her father watch his blurred out manifesto on TV where he says, remember, I do this until you learn how to do it yourself. Which is also the ending shot of the film that we're watching before the ending of the film. The timing of these scenes makes no sense. Sanders then impersonates...
It does, because that first video is him saying the manifesto, as you called it, before the punishment is delivered, and then the same manifesto is after the punishment is delivered. So it hits differently. It's literally exactly the same as V for Vendetta, or very, very, very similar.
It's an officer and drugs and kidnaps a judge, the judge that let the 6 rapists walk free. And honestly, this I can get behind. And then the funniest scene of the film. We see police carrying out dead bodies out of a home.
Get behind it. This guy watches it, butchers it.
Where they were killed. And they carry them out of a room, through the hallway, out of the house, through the halls of the building, just burning runtime. Sanders then gives the judge a speech about how the law is there to help people, the victims and not the perpetrators, and the writing is just chef's kiss. It's people like you letting people get away with rape and murder, excusing their behavior, letting people get away with rape and murder.
Okay.
He literally repeats the same sentences over and over again. Not only is he repeating the same sentence over and over, but he's saying all this to the judge while he looks like this. And if the film wasn't inconsistent...
That's an interesting point, because it happens numerous times, not numerous, but at least a few times in the film, where you can't tell if the lines that the protagonist is delivering are breaking the fourth wall. I think he's breaking the fourth wall quite a lot, meaning he's not talking to the person to whom he is theoretically talking, he's talking to you on this other side of the screen. That's my guess. But I did notice that as well.
Enough, Sanders then says that people are all sheep and they will follow the law even if that puts their own lives in danger, and they will not do enough to save themselves. And to prove said point, he veers into the opposite lane of traffic, forcing this guy off the road, whose car then flips and literally fucking explodes. And he's like, see, that guy wouldn't even break the law crossing into my lane, so he had to veer off the road, and now he's probably dead.
Okay, so I think this is a very good point, and him and I, for once, are going to agree. So this scene is lifted directly from Fight Club, in my opinion. That's the bit that I was talking about at the beginning of my reaction. So what happens is, as he said, you have this car, he veers into the opposite lane on purpose, and basically he shows how the person on the correct lane veers off of the road in order to avoid the collision, but also to avoid going to the other side of the road, because that will be highly illegal. Again, I will take this license to interpret it as a very, very, very German thing. This sounds extremely German to me. For example, that doesn't resonate with a Southern European, such as myself, at all. At all. I would definitely attempt to avoid flipping my car over in a ditch if I can. Like, I'd immediately think of a different solution. We're very different. But I think he is accurately describing Germans. I've spoken with German people. I will be speaking with German people this year again, because I need to visit Germany. They are very neat and tidy from many perspectives, very rigid from this perspective. Now, with all of this said, I thought that this scene was in very, very poor taste. And it damages the Vigilante's credibility. Because there is no scene in which you, essentially committing murder through accident or through manipulation, because you knew it was going to happen, yada, 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 justifies your vigilanteism. I think that is very, very, very wrong. That is a bad scene, in my opinion. I mean, it's obviously trying to make the German point that I was saying before. That's why I'm increasingly convinced that it's the German angle. But no, I wouldn't have done it this way at all. Also, the explosion of the vehicle was absolutely exaggerated for effect. And it even looks silly. But again, this is not a matter of budget. Like, making it explode was just dumb. Like, for a car to explode because it's rolling, I mean, what the heck happened? Like, the tank was full and something punctured it, but what happened? It's just, doesn't make any sense. That was silly.
Probably. Did we not see that explosion? What? But also, I'm sorry, what kind of brand of justice is this that we literally killed an innocent person just to prove a point to a judge that we're gonna kill anyway? What? But also, what kind...
Setting aside his interpretation at the end, I think is on the money here. It's like, what kind of justice is this? Like, this is crass, really. It's essentially disregarding the value of life. It's bad. It's a bad scene.
What kind of point are we making? Because we're a vigilante because people break the law constantly. They don't care. But now we're saying that people just follow the law too much. He takes this judge to a...
Anyway, I think I'm gonna stop here just because it's really long. It's already like 2 hours 40 minutes. So I initially sought out this type of reaction to the film because I wanted to see negative opinions of the film, because I myself had some issues with it, and I've essentially explored them all, ending with this particular scene. I personally don't think it's a fantastic film. Not because of the quality things, I think those are fine. I think the symbolism is a bit excessively on the nose in certain bits. And I think it's simplistic in some parts. But as I'm sure is transpired from my discussion of all of this, generally speaking, I think the film was solid. And there's a, desperate need for alternative content such as this in the world. Desperate need. Like, there is so much of the opposite, and there is nothing of this. The mere fact that somebody had the courage to do this, and all of the people in the cast, who, by the way, there's blacks, whites, all sorts of stuff. There's even those Middle Easterners that then get all shot as a family in the film, right? I mean, all of those agreed to do the film, so this poor fool that thinks this is a racist thing just doesn't understand anything ever. But that's I think we've established that. I think I've drilled it in. I think that concept must have penetrated everybody's mind by now. And I partially apologize for banging on about it for this long. It's just, he's irritating me. So, but anyway. Yeah, I've talked about the film with my wife, and my wife is mildly disturbed by it. She's more hawkish than I am from this perspective, meaning she agrees with the message of the film more than I do, in essence. But the problem is, I think, because I've read comments and everything, is that there's a heck of a lot of simpletons on every side. On this one and on the other one. On his one, the guy in here, and let's tentatively call it mine, meaning the side that thinks that justice should exist and that the current machinery doesn't work to deliver it, and the taxation is too high, and so on and so forth. So, yeah. I don't know. I think the film does a good job of essentially saying that all crime must be punished, fundamentally. And on that, I agree categorically. And I agree that the powers that be don't do it. With that said, like I said, there's at least the brothel scene and this scene that are a real fly in the ointment for me. They just come across as very crass, very seedy. I mean, the first one's seedy. This one is not really seedy. This one's just crass. Like I said, there's no respect for the life of others to prove some sort of point. It's Machiavellian. It's not good. Gavin McInnes says all is fair in love and war. You can keep saying that. I don't know. I don't agree. I know that I don't agree. I do not know if it's a necessary step. I hope not. I wouldn't want to see a world where that's a necessary step. Anyway, rather tired. You're probably tired too. I do apologize for the length. The guy said a lot of things. I had to say a lot of things. Maybe I was very repetitive. I'm sorry if I was. Maybe I was entertaining. I'm sorry if I wasn't. I don't know. Good night.